G'day everyone. One thing I did forget, let's plug myself in. Plug yourself in, old boy. That's better. So what's Blinky saying? Anything you want, Harry gets it. Anything you need, Harry got it, baby. Okay. That's concerning. I do not provide drugs. I do not provide prostitutes. I don't, within reason. It's only nutritional, nothing beyond that. Please do not ask me for anything. Harry's Pleasure Dome sort of antics. That's sort of private. Blinky. Basically. Yes, running late. Yes, I'm running late. I was actually heading to the local IGA, and then Lynn goes, "Oh, Harry." And I go, "Oh, what the fuck does she want?" And then she basically said, "Oh, can I come shopping with you?" And I go, "Okay, Lynn, let's go shopping." So yeah, I ended up being delayed. Richard, you bad boy. Yes. Don't provide prostitutes within reason. Yeah, Richard's, damn, what do you expect from a Kiwi? Don't expect anything, that makes sense. I couldn't help it, mate. He's probably going to contact Bart and say, "Do you know what he's saying about Kiwis?" And then Bart will say to him, "Well, I'm half Australian." They're a strange tag team, those two. It's the lack of disease, Harry, in New Zealand. Yeah, you're muzzled and locked up, and if you just show the hint of any disease, they'll lock you up and throw away the key. Is that what you're telling me? Into the gulag of New Zealand. Anyway, let's move on after we've had that entertainment part. Oh, face palm. Oh, God. I sometimes wonder whether I'm worse than you guys. Yes. No. Milk in the evening, it's the milk time. Yes, baby needs to get his milk in. So, yes. Imagine my shock. Hey, it was only 7 minutes until I got in. It's not too bad. I mean, I did say 10 minutes and 7 minutes, it's an extra 3 minutes of your life. And, hey, that's much lower than Greek time, which is add half an hour. How are things, Scotty? And Alex, how are you, mate? I was late, choose an ice cream. Let the show begin. Oh, God. Is that the sort of influencer I am? Shit. Not doing a good job, Blinky. Not doing a good job, Blinky. Oh, God. Rob steak, free-range eggs, and free-range bacon here. Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. I just had some free-range chicken, gluten-free free-range chicken from Maria Island. Hadn't had chicken for a while now, for a couple of weeks. And I did go up for a completely different item, for two different items, brie, and also to get some, baking paper and stuff like that, because I usually bake most of my steaks. I don't fry them. So if I'm either barbecuing or baking most of the stuff, I very rarely use the frying pan. I just primarily use it for, if I'm doing like something like fried eggs or scrambled eggs or something like that, just to put above them on top of the meat. Yep. But yeah, I don't fry things that much. Oh, not that I have days when I do, but it's not the. Lately, I've sort of just baking. So ease. Grounded lamb and oops. Eggs after that. Lamb. I like myself a bit of lamb. You're not half Kiwi, are you? At least Harry could do it. Put some music on while we wait. Any suggestions? I could have put some heavy metal music. That's true. Yes, I could have done that. I could have been a real cunt and put some classical music for you on. I know you're so classically educated, you guys. Or some Roy, yeah, that's true. I could have done that as well. Exactly. Yes. Or some Greek music. Richard. Yes, the mouse. He's a deviant mouse. He likes going up drain pipes. He's a real piper. He loves his pipes. Yes. It's like a disease, Harry. Yeah. But we know what happens, Richard. We know what happens, Yes, you just a sniff of a sneeze and you're in the gulag. Don't you forget that. In with the Kiwis. Do they actually allocate you basically a sheep, at least? For some. There's no comforts. Are there any comforts? No? Can you let us know? Nothing like a good pipe. I can see I've already deteriorated today. This afternoon's live stream. Let's continue. Oh God, I can't help you. That's true. That's true. I keep on telling plenty of cushion to pushing goats are bony. Oh, that's true. Yeah, they are bloody bony. Bloody hell. Yes. Yes, we could. Maybe in future, I should have had those. Remember those music stuff that I had? I created those little clips. I should have actually had one of those running just in the background. Just get the worst one. Oh God. Oh, but I'm at the bottom. What happened? For quarantine, take a sheep home, right? Thanks, mate. Thanks for the laughs. I appreciate that. God. Anyway, any more questions? Any comments, guys? Oh, bloody hell. At least I've got my milk. Yes. Nothing like milky. And, well, the stream has a different tone to the morning one. I may leave you boys to it. We'll get to the serious stuff, mate. Don't worry. Eventually we will. We're going to have a bit of fun. Companion sheep. Nice one. G'day, Angela. Yeah, it's degenerated. I know. It's when you got T1 and T2 and Richard, the vivid mouse. What do you expect? They really lower the standards. It's not me. Believe me, Angela. It's not me. It's these trolls turn up and they really just lower the tone. Yes. No notification. Kept checking in. No sign of stream until now. Oh, you didn't miss much. Yes, it wasn't very ladylike. Let's put it that way. Yep. Oops, what happened there? Hold on. Don't do that. Night shift. Okay. That cold. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're in the northern hemisphere. That's right. Yep. It would be cold. Mate. It definitely would be cold under those circumstances. I hope you're well dressed. You probably need a New Zealand companion to warm you up. Doo-doo. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. They're nervous about something. Actually, there's one thing that I did actually check today. There was, where is it? Let me just find it. There was a low carb down under sort of discussion, and they went into, Lustig was there talking. I did check it earlier, right after my other live stream. Let me just bring that up. Where is it? Low carb down under, Q&A. Now, let me just go through numbers. I'll recognize me. Yep. Okay, now let me just find. I think it's about there. Lustig's a bit weird at times. I can't agree with much he says outside the sugar stuff. Exactly. Job or wrong? How are you keeping up? There's something wrong, isn't there? Me keeping up. Oh God, awful. Excellent. Absolutely disgusting. How can you keep up, Harry? You need to stop keeping up. I agree. Harry's a bad boy for keeping up. Completely and utterly agree. Now let's just zoom in and open this up. Come on.
Index patients of Brown and Goldstein who discovered the LDL receptor. Those patients will die of a heart attack by age 18. And it turns out it's the heterozygote is 1 in 500. I am one, I have it. And so I've been on Lipitor since 1993, and I need it. And I tried going off it, and it went straight back up to 350.
So that's nonsense. The reality is that you don't need Lipitor. Absolutely nonsense, in that regard. So, even though he says, yeah, it's going very high, but remember Lustig also is not a true low carb. He still consumes some carbohydrates, like potatoes and, glucose. He doesn't view glucose. And in a sense, glucose isn't basically toxic like fructose, but you still grow a bit of subcutaneous fat. That's true. Still put on fat because you're engaging the Randall cycle. You're not basically building up visceral type fats and stuff like that. So in the same way. But the thing is, the arguments are a bit spurious about the genetics. I've looked at the research and all that sort of stuff. And I can tell you, if you've got basically a very low, I'll just continue for a sec. I just want to.
So I know that I need it. My sister needs it. My father had his heart attack at 61. His father had his heart attack at 44 and died. My grandfather had his heart attack at 38 and had 4 heart attacks before he died at 72. So I've got heart disease running up and down my family, and I've already had left main disease, and that's on Lipitor. So I know what I need, but that doesn't mean everyone else needs it. So people who have familial hypercholesterolemia need a low-fat diet because they need their LDL to come down.
They don't. They don't need a low-carb. That's crap. What they need is a species-appropriate diet without any sugar, because they would be the sort of hyper-responders that we talk about there that are ApoE 4.4 and 4.3, and 4.2. They have the genetics, which means that they uptake fat out of the actual bloodstream much faster. So if you've eaten carbs and you've basically filled up your liver with some sugar, and then you have this type of phenotype genetics, the original, which is a small percentage of the population that has these genetics, and you uptake rapidly basically lipids into this fats into the system, you will create fat droplets, and also you will have this sort of overflow of sugar into the bloodstream and create inflammation. It's basically these people need to be on an ancestral, very clear. They've got no 30 grams and 50 grams of carbohydrates. No, these people shouldn't even be on milk. These people should be on, because it's got too much sugar, they should be on basically pretty much zero sugar, because they're not designed and they don't have the genetics to deal with it. It's not the high glucose, it's not the high fat, it's the actual glucose that they can't manage. The easiest solution is to say, oh yeah, just feed them glucose and get rid of the actual, but that means if you do that, you're basically, you're aging them faster with glucose, so they won't live as long. And he can't show me any science, because all the science that is in this on these sort of conditions have to do with people who are very high in terms of the ability to actually raise LDL really rapidly. We know that they exist, and these genetics, and we know basically Dave Feldman has actually looked into them, because he's one of them. He's a 4.3, and he knows his LDL goes very high very easily. The difference is that Dave realizes that he needs to clear out sugar altogether from his diet, and when he does, triglycerides come down, his LDL is very high, but all his inflammatory biomarkers drop considerably, and that's important. And that's the thing that basically Lustig, because Lustig doesn't come from a traditional low carb community. He basically goes to the paleo community, to the low carb community, all these, basically to push his anti-fructose agenda, that we need to get sugar out of the system, that it's really bad. And he does contribute in a way against that, but he still has a fat phobia, and he doesn't realize, and I don't think he understands the Randall cycle. This is the reason why he has this sort of anti-sugar sort of where people that understand the Randall cycle realize that both fat and sugar, if you combine them in large amounts, they can create problems. Fat isn't protective unless it's in a low carbohydrate state, and sugar may not be as damaging if you're in a low fat state, because you're not engaging the Randall cycle, but you're aging yourself faster, and you're causing other problems in the long run. And we see it amongst deficiencies and all sorts of things amongst the vegans. So I don't think he's been exposed to those communities or that knowledge, and that's why he still is in the sort of the academic world, in that sort of more narrow type of perspective in terms of the macros and how they play and the standard diet, and that's where the confusion lies. And he sees when you're on a standard diet, when you remove fructose, it's sort of tolerated. And if you lower basically fat, you get better results. And that's because you're not engaging the Randall cycle, as we understand. These are the things that he doesn't understand. I mean, still, this is what shocks me, that so many years have gone past and still people since 1963, when Philip Randall actually explained the Randall cycle, and still there are so many academics, even in our community, that have no idea or deep understanding of it. That's what shocks me, to say the least. So yeah. Exactly. Before the 20th century, before all these drugs and all that, these people didn't die. Exactly. That's correct. It's because of the modern food environment. And then they sort of use this reductionist approach, and they go down this other, and that's the problem, So unfortunately in academia, people don't have this historical connection. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ivor Cummings, and he's low carb, and he's got no problems. He's not dying from a heart attack. And anybody who's a 4.4 or 4.3, you just have to basically realize that your remnant chylomicrons, that is fat that you consume, will go really fast, rapidly into the liver. And if there's sugar in there, you're going to create insulin resistance in the liver. Just basically realize, these are my genetics. I've got zero tolerance to basically sugar. Get the fuck sugar out of the liver, and you won't have this problem. Just because you've got these genetics, learn to basically live on a very, very zero carb diet, and you're not going to have any of these problems. But people want their cake and eat it. I want my potatoes. I want this. You're not adapted to it. Genetically, you've got the oldest genetics. You just can't do it. Sorry. If you want to do it, you're going to get sick over time, especially if you add a lot. And it's not so much, even some sugar coming from carbohydrates. People in the past with these genetics had some ability seasonally to deal with it, because that's what it was, seasonal assault. Now it's all year round. The assault is all year round, and that's where eventually they just can't manage it. Their genetics could work within seasonality. With all year round, it just falls apart. So yes. Heard someone say that if you are bitten by a male tick that carries a virus that yeah. But let me put it this way: it's nonsense. If you basically cut out the meat for a period of time, you will actually have a desensitization, and eventually you can actually eat meat. So you switch to other things, other type of meats, seafood and other things, and eventually that susceptibility drops, as long as you're not being continuously bitten by these ticks. It's just a protein that, because of the protein similarity, that actually creates an immune response. Once the immune response comes down and actually goes away, then you are desensitized, as long as you're not being bitten continuously. Yes, there are cases in New South Wales, in Australia. And yeah, no, even though it's on TikTok, it's not. I know, actually, there's a case in parts of New South Wales where there's a specific tick, and there's also in the US, in the southern states. I can't remember whether it's New Mexico or Texas or where it is, where there's some sort of little sort of insect. It's similar to an ant type insect, and it's yeah. So Lyme disease is you can actually find it in similar sort of type of species that can cause it, but it's not the same. It's a different condition. One is the news called Star Tick. That's what it's called. Yep, got it. North Sydney. Yep, exactly, in Australia. Good. Thanks, Scotty. That's the sort of area I'm trying to remember where it was. Yeah. is good to have other people well informed. Is just because of the proteins being, yeah, it's only red meat, which is beef and stuff like that. It's just one of those accidents of nature where proteins are very similar. You know, shit happens. If we go all the way back, there may be common descendants, you know, and some of this protein, because evolutionary, there was no need to get rid of it. It just remained in that species and just perpetuated for, you know, and today can create problems for some people. Adult females tick most likely to bite human. Is that from personal experience, Alex? Oh, web search. Ah, that's it. Oh, good thing. Thank you, Richard. You're being useful. Sauce and vegans. Yes, me too. I'd be really pissed off. Ultra pissed off. I've caught up again. There you go.
In order to prevent heart disease. In addition, there is another disorder that I took care of called type 5 hyperlipidemia, okay, or hyperchylomicronemia. It's a relatively rare disorder, but in obesity clinic, we would see it. And these people would actually
I'm
have
fine on
their,
the genetic. I've actually checked my
triglycerides
five.
rise when we gave them fish oil. Normally it should go down. They actually went up. And the reason is because they couldn't clear their chylomicrons because the chylomicron receptor in the liver was defective. They need an ultra low fat diet.
Yeah, that depends. There are some differences in that. There is another gene that also plays a role. So it's not as clear, as black and white as it's sort of depicted in that regard. And there are two other genes that I've looked at that I'm fine with them, which have to do with the conversion. So the sort of with the essential fatty acids and utilization. So it's a bit more complicated, but I know what he's getting at. But and this is where some people then jump on that bandwagon and say, oh, look, there's this little group of people that may have some stability. They go, oh, look, it's PUFA, it's causing, that pathway. And I'm going, no, that's a very narrow focused thing. And it's only when somebody in a state of insulin resistance or engaging the Randall cycle when that becomes a problem. So it's, again, reductionism. We need to be very careful of the skullduggery that actually gets perpetuated out there about even PUFA from animal sources. People can just jump on a little reductionist thing and say, oh, there's one gene there, there's an association. Oh, let me just hammer that like mad. No, please. Yes, we've had enough. Thank God, Salad Boy hasn't picked up on this information. He hasn't picked up. He's not aware of it. Fuck, can you imagine? Oh, God. You'd never hear the end of his reductionist bullshit. I'd have to throw up on the computer. So thank God he hasn't seen this or heard about it, because if he does, you know what he's going to be like. Like a rash, like a human rash all over us. Who knows? Who knows? Yes, the mind boggles about some of these associational genetics. It's all associational. And it's all in people with, remember the Mendelian studies? That's where it all comes from. People all on sick Randall cycle engaging diets. And then from there, they extrapolate bogus associations. It's mind numbing, to say the least. It's enough to want to make you puke in that regard. But yes. Anyway, let's move on. It's an entertaining day.
Also, so there are specific people based on their disease, and the point is you have to figure out what it is. And there is not one diet for everybody.
Bullshit.
I believe in low-carb diets for the right patient.
A couple questions on fasting and its effect on fatty liver.
It's because your diet sucked. Expressed. Very specifically to get the insulin down, to promote beta hydroxybutyrate, because it's for that. However, there aren't that many studies in the literature that say that this is the right thing to do. It's being studied. There was a movie out that maybe some of you.
James, are you referring to any particular studies when you say winning races on low carb?
There was another part. Where was it?
Participates in the TCA cycle, overwhelmingly. That's muscle insulin resistance. And USA grade A, it's what's in protein powder, it's what body acids. You have to.
Maybe Brian could help with this too. So, dear Dr. Lustig, please explain how corn-fed beef causes NAFLD.
Sure. Yeah, I was waiting for that one. So, branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, valine. Corn is very high in those. Okay, it is not high in grass. Okay, those three, leucine, isoleucine, valine. All three of those are essential amino acids. You have to eat them. So the level in your blood is a manifestation of your consumption. Because you don't make them, you have to eat them. Turns out that those three amino acids are a metabolic signature for metabolic syndrome. This is work of Christopher Newgard at the Obesity Nutrition Research at Duke. So here.
Bullshit it is. I've actually looked at the research. I will be doing a video on it and actually explaining all these things. But let me make one thing completely and utterly clear. These people that are basically showing issues are usually they're not exercising. So if you're exercising, it's like whey. You take whey, this big spike, it comes down. You actually encourage muscle protein synthesis. But your insulin to glucagon ratio is quite low right after that spike. And that's the most important thing. You get that push of, and that's the same thing about, using something right after and then actually having a more slow acting protein after that. Why? Because we want to actually get those branched chain amino acids into the muscle because they will actually increase your muscle growth. And that's really important. But you probably don't need, if you're a sedentary person, you probably don't need. But the problem is, even if you were to take BCAAs as a sedentary person, you're not going to get the effects that he's talking about. Why? Simple. What he's ignoring is the actual insulin to glucagon ratio. The insulin to glucagon ratio, when you're consuming a species appropriate diet, is only 1.3. Is very low. It's just slightly above that. It's 0.5 above fasting. That is so low. The problem is they all look at these studies, and these studies are mixed macros. That means people are eating shit, eating Randall cycle state type of carbohydrate fats and all that. Yeah, when you throw BCAAs into that mix, yeah, you're definitely pushing up fat production. But because you're basically just overwhelming the TCA cycle and creating so much citrate that basically it ends up being turned into fat. Yeah, whoopee, de novo lipogenesis, we know that. It's in the literature. It's not something new. But the thing is, you have to engage the Randall cycle to get there, And when somebody's insulin sensitive, like an athlete or whatever, or a weightlifter or whatever, they're not going to be engaging the Randall cycle. They will be pushing it into muscle protein synthesis. And what he's trying to make out is that, these corn-fed animals that are insulin resistant, they're creating more fat in the actual muscle, that basically they will have higher BCAAs in their protein, branched chain amino acids. It's minor. It's so little, it's a joke. Because they've already been converted into fat. Those branched chain amino acids are going to be very low in concentration. They're going to be slightly more than something which is grass-fed. They're just going to have more fat in their tissue, in their basically in their muscles. That doesn't translate. We humans that are eating it are going to get more of that, and especially when you're on a low species appropriate diet with a low insulin to glucagon ratio, you're not pushing up growth pathways. So that's just going to go into muscle protein synthesis. It's not an issue, and it's so little in comparison. It doesn't make it's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned between grain and grass. One has a better profile overall, and it's more ethically produced. But fundamentally, we're not talking about any major differences in BCAs. It's just not there. It's not an issue. It's an issue for the cow that's being fed the corn. I would say if you've got delta, when he says delta 4, what he means is those which are plants which are carbon 4. We've got carbon 3 and carbon 4 type plants. Corn is one of those carbon 4s, and that's what they look. It's a delta 4 isotope analysis. I mean, I've talked about this, and I think Bart's talked about it as well in the past. But the thing is, just to explain, because people use different terminology, so it's the carbon thing that we talk about. That's what he means by delta 4 if you go and listen to it right through. But the thing that you guys need to understand is that these people are basically on a sad diet that are in these studies. And obviously when you add additional, compared to one athlete, additional BCAs, you're going to get some real push-up of growth factors. And that isn't fucking good, But that's not an athlete, and that's not somebody low-carbing or in ketosis or on a carnivore diet. Please. That's people on a standard shit diet.
Here's why this happens. Branched chain amino acids is what's in protein powder. It's what bodybuilders use to build muscle, because muscle is 20% branched chain amino acids. You need them if you're building muscle. I agree, you do, if you're building muscle. But what if you're a mere mortal like me, okay? You don't need any branched chain amino acids to build.
Now, that's correct what he says about 20%, and that is required for us. It's not if you're lifting weights, as anybody that's lifting weights or doing some exercise and all that, it'll drive in there. The reality is that as long as the other growth pathways are very low, BCA is not going to cause any problems. They only cause in a person who has an underlying, eating the shit diet, standard diet with throwing. Or there are some athletes that may not be basic, may be over-consuming, like some guys out there are doing like strongman stuff, and they're eating shitloads of carbs, shitloads of fructose, shitloads, they're taking anabolic steroids and doing all this sort of stuff. Yeah, those people are going to be a bit, they're going to have both good and bad growths. And that's not a very healthy way to be an athlete, obviously, because they're engaging in the Randall cycle, they're doing all that. The level of exercise is not going to basically at the level that they're actually in terms of intake of these substrates is just going to overwhelm the system. There's just not enough exercise they can do in a day to basically deal with it, mitigate it. So in those sort of people, you actually see them, they're basically muscular, but very fat muscular. And, they've been engaging the Randall cycle here or there, and have probably got a bit of fatty liver and stuff and all that. Where the old athletes that were putting some of this anabolic foods in, they were lean and muscular, very different in the golden era of so today's athletes are not doing the stuff like meat and eggs, steak and eggs and these sort of diets. They're doing shit diets, absolutely shit diets full of carbs and crap.
Muscle, because you're weight stable, muscle stable. So if you're consuming a whole lot of branched chain amino acids in your meat, and I can prove to you that this is the case, because all you have to do is look at Argentinian beef, Italian beef, and USA grade A 100% prime choice corn-fed beef. The Argentinian beef, the Italian beef, homogeneous, pink, all the way through, grass-fed. The US beef, marbled. We love that marbling because that's where the flavor is. You can cut it with a butter knife. Okay, it's why it's sold all over the world. Understood. But that's the branched chain amino acids driving that. That's muscle insulin resistance. That's
exactly. That is the actual BCAs and the insulin resistance, because they've been fed corn and all this sort of shit, that is basically driving that. But the fat that they actually create, I mean, just think of it. What is it actually saying is, this is a contradiction. So goose liver pate, that means we feed sugar to the goose, and we've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years, the French. You know, they weren't getting cardiovascular disease back then. It's only now that they're starting to put more processed foods. But back then, they were fattening up their gooses with lactose, you know, and then they were actually eating them, but they were just eating the fat. They weren't eating the BCAAs that created the fat. So where's the issue? And even if the animal has a bit more in its protein, a bit more BCA, it's just minor. It's so minor, and that's why another thing why I usually say that bodybuilders probably do better consuming grain-fed beef, because you know they save themselves a bit of money on the BCAAs. It's very minor. The benefit is marginal. It's ridiculously marginal, so they don't really need to. It's unimportant. And it's the same thing with the goose liver pate and stuff like that. The goose liver, the goose gets fat, yes, gets a fatty liver, yes, and we love it, and we actually cook it up and eat it and all that, and produce goose liver pate, and we enjoy it. But the reality is we're not getting the BCAAs. The animal's already taken the BCAAs, converted them, and then basically driven this fat deposition, and then we're enjoying the fat. So it's a non-issue. It's no different than basically seasonally engaging the Randall cycle at the end of the year, putting in a whole lot of fat and fructose like humans used to, like animals used to at the end of the, the end of the summer and all that, fattened up for the winter, and it's the same sort of stuff. That's not unhealthy. It's not unhealthy, you know. It's unhealthy for the cow that it's eating corn and getting excessive amounts of this and creating insulin resistance in the body, but it's temporary. It's no different than we did seasonally, or other animals did seasonally. So I completely disagree that it's actually, acute pathology or stuff like that, you know. So, or that basically this will then come to us. How can it come to us when the BCA is very low? It's gone through the it's gone through the processes of being converted, you know, going from citrate to going to fat, de novo lipogenesis, and basically getting there. So why is there an issue? It's just a fat. It's a good quality fat. You know, you can use it, low deuterium fat. So I don't see a problem. It's again, this sort of reductionist thinking that then drives your thinking in this sort of narrow way of thinking about everything, which drives me up the wall, as you guys know.
Intramyocellular lipid.
Yep.
And the reason is because of the corn, which the animal ate.
Exactly.
So
bad for the cow, not for the human that's eating the cow.
Went straight to the liver. The liver wasn't, they're not building muscle because they're sitting on a CAFO. They're not exercising, okay? They're eating all this corn, and the liver has to take the amino group off in order to metabolize it through an enzyme called BCAT, branched chain aminoacyl transferase, turns it from branched chain amino acid into an organic acid. The organic acid enters the mitochondria, participates in the TCA cycle, overwhelms the TCA cycle, just like the fructose did.
Exactly.
Throws off citrate, and now you're doing de novo lipogenesis straight to fat.
And that's correct. It does act like basically fructose in that regard. So, but that's only because you're again in a state of insulin resistance. Now, if that animal wasn't in a state of insulin resistance, it was basically not consuming a mixed diet, because these animals, remember, they deliberately put a lot of fat. They actually buy industrial seed oils. They throw industrial seed oils into the mix with a whole lot of sugars and stuff like that, and corn and whatever else, and they mix it all up to basically make them insulin resistant, to fatten them up. That's what they do, you know. It's well known. We fatten up gooses that way. It's been happening for a long time. That will just create a really good fat product for us, but it won't actually translate to us unless we eat that and go out and buy corn or wheat and shit like that and combine it, and then we do the exact same thing that was done to the cow. But you got to get the corn and into the human and the actual other shit, or beers, you know, drinking a beer or whatever. Yes. So yeah, you guys will come across this, and I just wanted to cover this point just to make sure that you guys understood that this is absolute nonsense. And I'm going to do a video on it because these things tend to have legs. Each time one of these things come out, people run with it. And they go, oh, look what Lustig said. Again, reductionist nonsense. And we need to basically clear up where we say, no. Lustig may have said that, but he was saying it in this sort of context, but at the same time admitted that there's very little BCA, I think somewhere here, where he actually admits it.
And so now you've got liver fat, which drives. Okay, so that animal is sick. We just kill it before it gets sick. So if you eat it, guess what? You get sick too.
No, you don't.
Brian or James, any, because you guys do with meat in South Africa, any?
Grass finished and grass fed.
Yes.
Okay.
So I said finished too. Yes.
For Robert.
Zygote is 1 in 500. I am one. I have it. Running up and down my family, and I've already.
I'm not going to go into that. I think he said somewhere, maybe he said it at the end, I can't remember where he actually said it. But the reality is that, unless you're engaging the Randall cycle, it's a non-bloody issue. It's, again, reduction and stuff on his side. And the thing is, even Lane Norton, who fucking gives me the shits because he's a dickhead, and he basically comes from the sugar angle and demonizes fat. This guy does the same thing, demonizes sugar and absolves fat in certain conditions, and then does a reverse when it suits him for certain conditions. What they don't actually accept is the Randall cycle. I don't know, is it they don't understand it? It's too complicated for them, the biochemistry of the Randall cycle. I have no idea what it basically is, guys, but they seem to miss it. And I think it has to do with a lot that most of the studies out there are not looking. I mean, you have very few studies, a couple of studies here and there that are looking at the sort of, diets like ours. Our sort of diet is not the normal. Very few people in the population actually either do a very low fat diet or a very low carbohydrate diet. The majority of the people out there are mixing their macros. And that's what they base all their research on, all their sort of stuff like the Mendelian genetic studies, all that sort of stuff. And that's where a lot of this misinformation and associational nonsense happens, even in genetics. I find some like genetic markers and they actually look at them and they go, oh, there's an association here. And then when you do like an entire, there was one of the genes that he talks about, I actually looked into it and I actually looked at, there was research, and I'll actually bring that up in my discussion when I do the video on this because it needs to be dealt with. And eventually when they actually looked at a whole large population group to see whether those genetics really were driving, they couldn't find any real strong statistical relationship. It was all over the place, which tells you basically that, these associations are basically, they do these narrow genetics studies with small groups of people and all that, and then they of people eating shit, and then they make these spurious associations, and then we end up chasing our tail, and that's what happens, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on. I needed to have my rant today. You know me, can't help myself. Okay, the glyphosate in the grain is the issue through. Well, the glyphosate is an issue, but it's not. In this case, it is Randall cycle activation within the animal, being fed both fat and corn and stuff like that. And basically, unfortunately, the animal is made to become fat by inducing insulin resistance and higher IGF-1, insulin, and mTOR, pushing up the growth pathways because they want really rapid growth in a very short amount of time. So they don't want to wait for 18 months. They want it within 6 months, get it out and slaughter it. So much better profits. Simple as that. Obviously, the glyphosate isn't a good thing in there because it's going to create some antibacterial, bacterial resistance or other issues as well. So, and potentially some of that stuff will get into our food supply. And that's my key qualm about glyphosate and how it can affect our gut microbiome, because that's the other angle completely. More has to do with the gut microbiome, the antibiotic effects of glyphosate, rather than anything else. Now, there is some studies out there that I've actually been made aware of and looked into a bit that talk about that it has it has certain effects on certain organisms and not on others. And the way the design of the studies was done in such a way where it was really hard to work out exactly what the mechanism was. So, and it wasn't industry backed. And I suspect there was a bit of, let's say shenanigans done by industry, because a lot of other studies that don't have any industry groups in them, that just looking at the effects, finding different results. And if it had no antibiotic effects, why the hell did Monsanto's take out a patent for it as an antibiotic? That doesn't make sense. And then pay scientists to claim otherwise. I mean, what the fuck? It's like me saying, my wall is red, and then I pay somebody to actually convince everyone else that it's white. So, or blue, sorry. We won't use the actual color, blue. So I'm saying it's red. And then, I go out and say, well, no, fucked it up completely. I'm saying it's white, which it is, antibiotic, acts as an antibiotic. I'm saying it's white, but I pay other people to go out there and say, no, it's blue, red, or something else, or polka dot. And that is exactly what they do. But, you got a patent, and then you go and pay other people to disprove your patent because it serves some other ulterior motive, because you won't be criticized for creating gut issues on people who could potentially sue you. So this is what the food industry has been doing for a long time. It's one, eggs are good, eggs are bad. This is good, this is bad. They use epidemiological research to muddy the waters. As long as there's a lot of confusion out there, they can protect their interests through legal avenues, but at the same time, they can actually claim, if anybody says, oh, you're causing certain health problems because of this, they can say, well, the literature doesn't really say that. It's mixed. It's confusing. We don't really know. No different than what the tobacco industry did in the past. We don't really know. Same bullshit, different day, So that's what's happening. So let's not fall in that trap. Hops, early, yip, yip, yip. They're all treated with Roundup. That's it. It's good old Roundup. Yes, they feed them fucking anything. They can get anything cheap, goes into their mouth. Yeah. Yes. Big fan of this new improved Lustig. Not a big fan. Oh, yeah, not a bit. Yes. Look, let me put it this way, Blinky. Lustig has always been a bit of a mixed macro man, down deep. Let's not forget when he talks about his arguments. Oh, look, these kids can be put on. He's never put them on a ketogenic diet or a low carbohydrate diet when he does research. Where he did that research about giving kids glucose or fructose and showing the reality is fructose, you can actually build a big liver with glucose, or you can build a lot of subcutaneous fat, as long as you don't get to the point where you can't. Some people have got genetics who they can actually grow new fat cells, and they can just keep on going until they can fill up the whole house. But the majority of people eventually will get to a point of extreme obesity, and then at that stage, they will basically, the actual fat cells won't be able to hold any more, triglycerides in there, and they will just burst and make a mess, and macrophage will basically jump in. And you actually see it. I think I've shown you guys in the past, like you get these little black things in the amongst the actual fat tissue, and that's the macrophage. It's just trying to clean up all the mess. But generally speaking, his view is that fructose, yes, fructose is worse. That's true. Yes, but it's, oh yes, thank you, Richard. Yes, very much. That is true. Yes, shut my eyes and switch. That is true. It is 7 o'clock after all. I should switch to the better blocking devices and be more fashionable as well. It is true. Yes. Oh, I need more milk. You know, I can't be completely fashionable. Nothing like. It's not as warm as it was before. Well, time to get ready for work. Have a good one. Thanks, Scotty. Take care. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for being here. Yeah, a sort of what we need to understand is got milk, you got it. Yeah, what we need to understand is that a lot of the researchers out there still are caught in this, it's either the calories in, calories out thing, or the hormonal system. Oh, it's the hormonal system driving this or that. Yeah, look, it's calories, the hormonal system, plus the Randall cycle activation, where you're actually stopping, impeding any stuff from going in, and it's circulating, and eventually will drive that insulin resistance. So we'll drive those hormones. So really, at the base level, it's really basically once you engage the Randall cycle, you start driving these hormones and stuff like that. And it's usually when you go to excess calories, and depending on the composition of those excess calories plays a big role, how fast you engage it and stuff like that. So yes. So it's a bit more nuanced the way we understand it, but the rest, everybody else, bye Scotty, see you, Scotty. Oh, get out there, Scotty. Yes. Anyway, everybody's thrown his 5, whatever. Anyway, back to Alex. Alex, I started on taurine. It repairs all damage in the ankle. Sleep is better, and it looks like my white and grey hair is disappearing, especially muscles in my legs, and feel better. Yes, taurine is really, really good for a lot of things. You know, it actually does break down fibrinogen, you know, the actual fibrotic tissue that can actually accumulate in different tissues in your liver. Great for your liver. You know, you got things like a lot of damage to your liver. Taurine is great. You got, remember the fibroid, the damaged scarring that I had in my heart that I no longer have? Taurine. Yes. Unfortunately, taurine can't help me with my hair because I've got, you know, that photosensitivity. UV basically just really just kills my melanin in my hair, and taurine can't do anything about that. It's just one of those genetic things that UV, it really fucks me in that regard. So it's just a reality. People say, well, a hat. I don't like hats. Fuck off. You know, other friends of mine say, oh, put some color in it. No, that's too, you know what? I'm not that metro. I'm an old geezer. Old style, old school. Let's put it that way. Not old geezer, old school. Yes. But yeah, exactly. Taurine. Oh, we've talked about all the reparative stuff. I mean, you've asked me before, and I'm glad you're doing higher doses and seeing a lot of this reparative stuff. It's really important. It does so many things, taurine, and it's one reason as we get older, we start having a lot of more damage that can't be repaired. Taurine plays a big role, and it's because of the synthesis of taurine drops, especially after 65. It just drops off the, you know, it's like it's like the body says, oh, that's a low priority. I need to fix up other things and keep them going, and that's what happens. But you know, if the body won't supply it in good amounts, get it in a supplement. You know, it will love you for it. So I think that people, as I've said ages, you know, for some time now, get your taurine levels up, especially if you're over 45. What's this? It's weird to see Harry say goodbye to someone as they leave and not an hour later. Is it weird? Oh, it's a new Harry. Who hijacked Harry? Looking around, who is that person? No, God, no. I love my hair. Yes. I'm not. Yes. Put your cap on, Harry. Probably should. I probably should. I just, I'm just. I just don't like it. My head sweats a lot. Remember, I've got those hypothermia genes, and when I actually walk or do exercise or all that, I sweat quite a bit. And if I'm wearing too much clothing on or hats and stuff like that, it's just, it's really annoying. So it's probably I find it very inconvenient and very uncomfortable. And so, yeah, but then I get this downside effect. Well, shit happens. You can't do everything. I'm still trying to find a way of actually stopping UV from actually having that effect. Still haven't found a way. Eventually I'll work it out. Let's put it that way. Yes. Only a matter of time in that regard. Yes, but it's the biggest difficulty that I find within our communities. Sometimes some of the reductionist nonsense that takes place, and that's the big one. It's annoying. It sort of gets me down a bit because it's like pushing against a wall. It feels like it with some of the sort of nonsense that is perpetuated out there. What was that? Where's like Bjorn? Oh, okay. Rob sheep fed into it. Is that your solution, Richard? Oh, God. Gets worse. I'll go for the shave. Sweatbands and sheep fat and next all day. Something else from sheep. Be very unpleasant. It's an aphrodisiac, Richard will say. Oh, no, it isn't, Richard. Yes. No questions from you guys. Isn't there anything that's happening on the interwebs? Anything that basically we can get excited about? Is there any crap out there that we are unaware of? We know what you rub when it comes to sheep. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Richard's a worry. I agree with you, T2. You nailed it, mate. It's an aphrodisiac. Rob the sheep. Bah, 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 bah. The newbies all left. Nobody to pick on. Is that it? I scared them off, perhaps. You probably did, Richard. God. Any questions, boys and girls, on any matter? Is Angela still here, or is she taken off as well? Everybody seems to be busy. Watch out for the dags, Harry. Yes. I'll have to. Yes. When am I going to buy more fashionable glasses? Fuck's sake. It's not pretty fashionable. What's wrong with your T1? God almighty. You got no class, mate. You got no class. I'm like a rock star. What are you talking about? What, those little blinky type things, Oh, God. Oh, God almighty. Exactly. That's what T1 would be thinking of. He's got a sick mind, that boy. He's got a sick mind. Oh, thanks, T2. He's got You know, he's actually got style. You don't have any style. You suck. You basically suck, T1. You absolutely suck. God. Yeah, that's the sort of shit the T1 will buy. Not even $2 dollar shop, you know. Yes, yes. Yes, the only ones that are my cheapest one of these ones here. About what I think I bought them for about a couple of bucks, and they were just basically out there. Somebody's on alert. See if that comes up. That didn't work. Oh, the actual. Okay, got the link. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that's what I need. New style. Looks like an alien. Nice one, mate. Thanks. Yes, yes. I think they're Koreans, basically, because this actual symbol you find in Korea. So probably a Korean rock band, but these are really weird glasses. But yeah, I mean, there's something cool about them as well. I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's maybe my feminine side coming out of me. Did you say exercise, sweating in genetics? Is that why people like myself can tolerate cold much better? Probably. If you come from a northerner or have some background from mountainous or northern, all that, there are genes that actually increase internal heat. So, and you tend to have more brown adipose tissue as well in that middle part, you know, behind your chest and all that. And yes, but I can tell you when I'm in the tropics, I wish I didn't have those genes. Yes. So, yes, some of them have, some of us don't. The Inuit have them as well. They would look better than those fucking things. So you got no fashion sense. T1, you got no fashion sense. You know, you really, you know, God, absolutely. You know, see, T2 has got a bit of fashion sense. When it comes to T1, zero. Oh, that's hate speech. Oh, God. Scale is in danger. Oh, God. Anyway, back to me with my fashionable glasses. I always knew you guys turned up just for one reason, because to look at my fashionable glasses. There was no other reason for it. Oh, how about on nighttime monocle? Oh, God. Richard. Something that T1 would say. Blinky? Yes, Blinky. He's a connoisseur of filth. Is the easiest way of describing him. Come on, guys, you got to have some questions. Something, a few things out there, anything controversial other people are talking about. The Greek goddess. You have, Harry. You're saying that I'm godlike? I didn't realize that. Do I have a godlike effect on you, T1? Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Did you watch the Saladino interview with a guy who has spent the last 10 years with the Hadza tribe? No. I know that basically a lot of the actual research has been done where even though they may have supposedly spent 10 years, they did not spend 10 years. They basically just visited once every year in the season when there was more carbohydrates around, and these people just turn up continuously at around the same time in the year. If you remember when I was talking to Mary Ruddick, because she's actually on the next expedition in the new year, in this period, she'll be going to Africa again with some of these people, and she actually wants to go into seasons that are outside the normal seasons to be able to see. She knows all year round they do consume a whole lot of different varied seasonal foods. And if you're going to get a proper perspective, you need to basically investigate them properly. Now, I don't know how long and what exactly the discussion was. It'd be interesting. Can you give me a bit more information on what they discussed, mate? So, I've an interest in the evolution diet for humans and some animals. It seems there is evidence that man once settling includes seeds as flowers. Do you know? What we do know is when we look at the nitrogen, which is the delta 15. So when you actually hear delta 15, what it means, because sometimes in research, when you look at research papers, delta 15 or delta 14 is basically the nitrogen. Okay, so they're talking about nitrogen isotope analysis of nitrogen 15 or nitrogen 14. 14 is protein from plant sources. 15 is from animal sources. It gets highly concentrated. So basically, that's one side of the coin. And then the other side is the type of source, what the animals are eating or what else is going in there. And that's where the carbon 4 or carbon 3 plants. The other is more the sort of stuff like grass and stuff like that. We know then, okay, so if it's a carbon 3 and 15, we know it's a ruminant animal that's actually eating grass and we eat the animal. On the other hand, if it's basically carbon or delta 4, carbon 4, delta 4 and delta 4, 14, then we know it's basically somebody that's in an agricultural time eating corn or shit like that. So that's how we do the isotope analysis, and we can know. And when we look up until a few thousand years ago, when there was agriculture, prior to that, it was all basically grass derived, the delta 3s, and the other one was basically the delta 15. So we know we were eating primarily ruminant animals. That's how we work it out, because they concentrate through the animals in that composition, depending on what they're eating and all that, because we don't have an ability to ferment these sort of grasses. We don't eat grass, So these are the ways we can determine what really was the ancestral diet, the evolutionary ancestral diet from the isotope analysis. There's nothing else. The rest is, g'day Sky, good to see you. The rest is crap in that regard. And this sort of people that say, they use things like, a lot of people that use evolutionary diets or the word evolutionary diet, there are variations from different parts of the world, but in general, it was a meat-heavy diet. That's what it was, but it can have variations. And in the more recent times, as the temperature got warmer and the fatness of the animals got reduced, because the animals basically, a lot of the mega beasts collapsed as the temperature got warmer. And as we were moving into agriculture, these environmental changes were happening. Animals were getting leaner, and most of the wild animals were more leaner. So this is why we eventually shifted. We needed a source of energy. Glucose was one of the sources from starting to produce grains and stuff like that, and also domestication of animals and trying to basically build more fatty animals, which is and that's why we fed them a lot of grains and stuff like that to fatten them up, because we needed to access more energy. Population was growing, and the wildlife was actually diminishing, becoming leaner meat. You know, ever heard of rabbit starvation? That's what you get if you just eat protein. So at some point you'll use up all your own fat, adipose fat stores, and then you will be in rabbit starvation mode. Ask anybody in the Horn of Africa back in the 80s. They went through that. Yes. So that's the sort of stuff we need to sort of understand in that regard. So I don't like the sort of, I know some people in the primal type communities and all that use that sort of lingo, but I don't like it because, you know, it has to be specific to species of what we call species appropriate diet. Evolutionary diets are open-ended. Once upon a time, 10,000 years ago, we probably only consumed plants. You know, that tells me nothing in terms of, you know, just because it was part of one point in evolution, who cares? It's where we are in the more recent times that's really important. So we have to be very careful the sort of language, because people sometimes use language to try and peddle an agenda, and that's the thing, you know. So I'm always wary about the way people sort of play around with numbers and stuff like that. So it's got to be very careful. You like the Muppets, don't you? Nah, these are far more fashionable than the sort of stuff you guys are thinking of. Yeah. Even through the Egyptians took it for a while from other levels, leading to deterioration effects. Maybe some small amounts won't hurt. Look, the Egyptians had what would be called, if you ask a nutritionist today, what would be the best diet? So what did ancient Egyptians consume? Some fish, some fowl, which is basically, you know, what we would call chicken, and certain carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. Egypt had no sugar. Sugar was only refined in small amounts, and it was worth more than gold in India. And then basically after Alexander got there, he was able to bring it westward. But prior to that, it was only complex carbohydrates. These were high carbohydrate diets, is what the actual experts recommend today. And they got sick. They had bad teeth. They actually had, you know, fake teeth and dentures and stuff like that on the mummies. We know even in early age. So they had a lot of teeth decay. So tooth decay was rampant, and also cardiovascular disease was there. And they even described it, how sort of this pain in the chest and then death appeared. You know, they even described the exact conditions of cardiovascular disease in there. So they were well aware of it. And so you don't need sugar. You just need a lot of refined carbohydrates to induce a very similar condition. It just takes a bit longer, but still. But this is what the nutritionists recommend. You're getting a heart attack by being on an Egyptian-style diet. So no, it's not species appropriate. It's just foods that we've been forced on. Now, if you want to eat some of this sort of stuff, that's your business. It's your body, your life. What you do with it is your business. But I will tell you, occasionally, like on a Saturday is the only time I have a bit of ice cream, and I'll probably get in about, you know, 40, 50 grams of carbs, maybe 60 sometimes. But that's one day. I won't do it on a regular basis. Why? Because I know if I do it, I will not grace, you know, I'm in my mid-50s, and I don't look like I'm in my mid-50s. And I had cardiovascular disease 10 years ago and reversed most of that sort of damage. I've still got more to improve. But the reality is that 2 litres of ice cream better. Richard, contain yourself. Don't make up stories. And, you know, so ultimately, yeah, I will leave that choice up to you. Any of you, whether you survive on only cheese and milk fermented dairy. No, you can't. Remember, I did a video with Bart going into it, how there are some levels of deficiency that you will get, like, you know, there's some iron deficiency and some other minerals as well. So just eating dairy, nope. But there's a lot of good nutrition in dairy, don't get me wrong, but you need to combine it with some eggs and some meat, and you will do better, like the Maasai do. That's what they do. They combine it with some organ meats, some eggs, and a lot of dairy. And so they're able to get the things that are missing from dairy, or not enough, sufficient, they'll get from these other foods. They eat less of these quantities of these foods because they consume quite a few litres of milk. But at the same time, they're also physically active, so they can deal with the sugar coming from the milk as well, which isn't a lot when you look at the percentages and ratios with all the other foods, and you're not skimming the cream to sell it off. It still has the cream when it comes out of the cow's tit. Yes. Anyway, and they do some fermented stuff as well, you know, which is fine. Did I only get 16 likes? Awful. Hey guys, hit the like button, please. I'll get Sky on, dears. Thanks, Sky, for letting me know. Is she still here? Hey, Sky, do you want to come on? If you're still here, let me know. I'll send you a link. What she's saying, hey, Harry, every time I try to introduce a cheat like a plant for whole food, end up immobile with locked joints. Yes. Do you want to come on, or you know, you're just dropping in? Nah. Fair enough. Don't worry. Some other time, if you feel like it. I'd love to have you on this channel, on one of the live streams, and I usually get Bart on for the same reasons, a bit of comedy and stuff like that. It just spices it all up, as you know. Keep video off. Richard, contain yourself. Behave. He's possessive. God, he's very possessive. What can I say? Take them off, whatever. No problem, Alex, you dirty old man. But I understand your sentiment. But you're still a dirty old man. Doesn't matter. We always love your company. We love your comedy as well. Some lady just recently, Sky had one with some lady actually thought that she actually left a mobile phone in a vehicle, in a Uber vehicle, and then she presumed, and this is because of the conditioning of the media. I mean, the media so much conditioned people to believe, okay, I see this young black person, you know, probably the person that took it off, rather than actually going up and talking kindly to someone and say, well, did you find a phone or whatever, stuff like that. She went up and sort of assaulted the guy and all that, and eventually, to try and get the phone off, eventually she got through the Uber and all that. I mean, a lot of people sort of really went at her, that she was, she's not Ku Klux Klan, guys. She's not some nasty sort of person. She's just basically like a lot of people, sort of conditioned, sees a young and thinks, it fits the profile. And this is the thing, the media set up a profile and say, oh, this is what certain people look like or behave, they're all like gangsters and stuff like that. And so you got that in your head. You're thinking with your reptilian brain. You're not thinking with your actual brain. And some people a lot of people are driven by emotion and can misbehave. And that's the problem, It's not that they are necessarily evil or racist or anything like that. It's just they basically are not engaging their proper brain, their frontal lobe. It's the reptilian brain that's being engaged, and they behave like that. So yes, she got a lot of flack. Probably deserves it for not thinking and all that. probably some of the stuff was a bit too harsh in that regard, but still, assault is assault, and you cannot take the law into your own hands. And so she should pay if they catch up to her. You should still pay for assaulting someone. It doesn't matter. That's right. She's just, Karen, third criminal offence. Yeah, that's right. She had a few other criminal. Well, they were minor, I mean. She had a traffic one, I think speeding was it, Sky, and a couple of others. But at the end of the day, this is a problem with media. A lot of us, if we look at ourselves, have probably had a lot of indiscretions, so to speak. But she was caned big time about being really a bad, drunk driving. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't call that a sort of a level 1 crime. It's not as if it's murder or anything like that. There's plenty of people that have got drunk driving or speeding offences or whatever else. Yes. What was that? Yep. Yeah. I know that you like to just throw in and do the independent mischievous thing and sort of let people sort of make up their own mind. But unfortunately, a lot of people will jump onto that and become very hostile and really nasty and all that. The reality is she assaulted another human being. As far as I'm concerned, it's the assault that's the issue here. She should be brought up on charges for assault. She basically allowed her reptilian brain, that sort of tribal type thing, to engage her thinking, so to speak. Come on, T1, that's a bit radical. That's way too much. She needs to assault children from all ethnicities now to be good and non-racist girl. Yeah, probably. God, yes. Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, she did the wrong thing by assaulting people. It's not acceptable, behavior. It's no matter what somebody says, it's just bad behavior in that regard. But at the same time, she's not, she's not Hitler. She's not some nasty individual. She's just, stupid lady that didn't think, and he just engaged her reptilian brain and just ran on emotion. But that's the funny thing. That generation also has this possessiveness once it comes to phones. I look at my own nieces and nephews. I mean, they can't get their head out of mobile phones. It's just they live out of mobile phones. Take the mobile phone away from them and they start, panicking and start getting, jitters and stuff like that. So that probably had an effect on her as well. I forget my phone at home. I'm walking to work and I forget it. I'm not going to go back. Unless I'm just out the door, I'll come back. Otherwise, fuck it, bad luck. I don't have a phone for the day until I get back home. But I'm not going to basically go back. Most people will literally go all the way back from work. I've seen people to get there, it's just ridiculous. If you can't live without a phone for one day, there's something really wrong with you, let's put it that way. Is it possible for fish oil supplements, cod liver in this case, to cause insomnia? If you're having it in the evening, it could be the vitamin D. Vitamin D should only be had in daylight, not in the evening. So there is vitamin D, and that vitamin D can actually cause the effect of insomnia. I think that was an easy one. What would you look at? Quick Google recommended avoiding folic acid and supplementing B12. What? Give us a break. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that? Basically, it's the vitamin D in the evening that's in the supplement in that. And, you know, if folic acid was the thing and B12, everybody that ate those foods, which nearly the whole population, all of us, this again, reductionist nonsense, narrow reductionist nonsense. Obviously, if you were to take these in supplemental form in very high doses, yes, they can have certain effects. But in small doses, coming from foods, zero effect. Even small doses in the daytime, not going to have any effect. So yeah, unfortunately, we have not had any grains for years now. I eat only meat, cheese, eggs, tiny amounts of veggies, and some Sauvignon Blanc, bit of wine. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'm not your mother. I'm not here to tell you what to eat and when to eat and what to do and stuff like that, or to spank you if you eat inappropriately. I'm just here to basically provide you with a no bullshit approach and sort of demystify some things and basically tell you to try and actually consume a more species appropriate diet. The more animal foods you consume, the better you'll be for it. Small amounts of veggies and a bit of wine isn't going to kill you. Let's put it that way. Yes, but is it optimal? No. But when I eat ice cream on the, you know, even low sugar ice cream that I consume on the Saturday, is that optimal? No. But I still do it because you've got to have a bit of fun now and then. And I also had a vodka, which is, that was nice, a nice vodka. Actually, I had 2 vodkas, but who's counting? Hey, Harry, every time I try to introduce cheat like a plank. Yeah, I did mention that earlier. Yeah, look, I end up immobile with lock joints. You probably still have some level of leaky gut. That's all I can say. You probably still have some underlying leaky gut. And the way you would sort that out is to get your fat-soluble vitamins up, because the fat-soluble vitamins regulate the collagen-degrading enzymes that regulate that whole thing. And as long as you don't have, look, I have a sensitivity to glycine and a few others, the glutamate and stuff like that, and tend to generate more oxalates. So you just may, you know, play with that. If you see that you end up with having a collagen thing, the safest way is actually to do bone broths. Bone broths, eggs, and fat-soluble vitamins from food, you know, like a bit of tallow, a bit of ghee, a bit of butter and stuff like that. And that will actually be the healing part, you know, because you've also got medium-chain triglycerides and short-chain fatty acids in the butter, which will basically provide the ketones and the butyric acid that your colonocytes in the gut require. So there's all that sort of stuff. There's a thing that I'm going to be doing shortly about the B vitamins and how to restore the gut microbiome. So that will be happening this month. And also there is another, the Reuteri stuff that I've talked about that actually can deal with some of the pathogenic bacteria. Bringing those numbers down can actually also improve the gut, the way the gut works, and also reduce the amount of the type of pathogenic bacteria that may be present because of your older diet that tended to grow those types. And as a consequence, because you didn't eat enough animal foods to grow the beneficial ones or the acid-loving ones, you've ended up with a certain types that are basically going to be creating issues for your stomach. You may even have, a lot of people, I know, coming from a plant-based diet tend to have C. diff, and C. diff can be a problem, and that can be dealt with not only a species-appropriate diet, but also some of these bacterial strains, the Reuteri ones that I've talked about. There's a whole lot of videos on my channel about that. You can check them out. And they tend to sort those things out because a lot of them also tend to have far more reactive, lipopolysaccharides that they release into the bloodstream and can create issues. So that's another part of, and those reactivity can affect joints and stuff like that. So it may not be only the plants compounds that are aggravating, like the lectins and the tannins and all that. That's going to be about probably 80%, at least 70 to 80%. The rest of it will be some of the bacteria that are growing because of these foods and actually are generating these polysaccharides, lipopolysaccharides. So it's going to be potentially a combination. But it definitely, when I hear people say, oh, I get these joint issues, I'm saying, you've got some underlying gut issue, it's a giveaway. Anyway, and every time I eat animal foods, but forget beef for a few days, I get fainting spells. Any idea what the fuck is wrong with me? Every time I eat animal foods, but forget beef for a few days, I get fainting spells. Like, what sort of other animal foods do you eat? There could be, if you're consuming a lot of dairy, which is very high in potassium, and you're not getting enough sodium in, you could be causing a sort of an electrolyte issue. Seafood tends to be higher in things like potassium, tends to be higher in things like, and much lower in sodium and stuff like that, compared to cheese, which has a better balance, a profile. So, but also you may have some sensitivity. If you've got gut problems, then you're more than likely to have some sensitivity to some of the compounds in seafood. I usually find that when people have got gut problems, dairy, eggs, and seafood can tend to be a problem. And then I usually say to people, stick to ruminant animals and get your multivitamin from organ meats, because you can't get it from things like eggs, and you can't get it from things like seafood. So you have to get it from organ meats, because you probably have come from a deficient diet, and now you have to build up your nutritional status and start healing. Bone broths are very important. And then once you've incorporated those elements, the ruminant animals, the salt, remember what I've been saying, phosphorus, salt, and the only things that actually prevent sarcopenia, osteoporosis, and also the lack of basically being able to build collagen tissue properly is basically the lack of sufficient salt, sufficient protein, and sufficient phosphorus. So that study will be shown, and that was a clinical study, controlled intravenously. They gave the food. There's no ifs or buts. It's a slam dunk as far as the research goes. It's just a lot of people don't know about it. So that's really important. And I would basically try and work on that with the fat-soluble vitamins, heal the gut with bone broths and stuff like that, and with fat-soluble vitamins. And eventually you'll be able to shift back to some of these other foods. So I would go first with eggs rather than dairy. Usually they are the less reactive, unless you've got a clear, and this is only people, if somebody's got basically an egg allergy, they will have it all their life, no matter what. So if you've never had an egg allergy, it's probably going to be the least egregious issue out of all these other foods. So, you could probably introduce eggs back much earlier, which would be a good thing because for the extra cholesterol in that regard. So yeah, that would be my focus, because you have to sort of restore the integrity. You also have to look at things like, are you basically generating enough acidity in the stomach as well? I know a lot of people that have come off plant-based diets that have got really high pH. They don't have a very acidic stomach, and it's a problem, So, because you can actually develop, overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, and that could be another reason why for gut permeability issues, and because unfortunately the mucous membrane through the small intestine, because normally you've got bile coming through and cleansing it, and as it cleanses through, it lowers both the bacterial load to very little, and the mucous membrane is much more narrower in the small intestine. As a consequence, it's much more vulnerable to lipopolysaccharides or SIBO or overgrowth in that regard. So you need to look into those things as well. And sometimes you need to do testing to know exactly where you are with those sort of things. Yep, hope that helps. Anyway. Cruise. That was my question, whether she wanted to come on. And that was the lady, Dranklang. Hello, Dave. Yes, bye, Mousy. Yeah, New Zealand, because it's nearly, okay, it's 8 o'clock nearly here, so it'd be nearly 10 o'clock there. Yes. Definitely later. Yeah, if you're mostly carnivore, it's, best thing, and you're not getting any reactivity of any of the other stuff. G'day, Angela. Yeah, lamb's pretty good. I actually find that when it comes to ruminant animals, people either do really both well on lamb and also beef. And some people do better on lamb than beef, and vice versa. It's a sort of a strange thing. I tend to prefer lamb and goat and things like that, and pork. I do eat beef, don't get me wrong, but it's not my favorite ruminant food. Let's put it that way. I just didn't grow up with it. I prefer lamb chops, I can go through a whole bundle of lamb chops rather than, I'll have a beef steak now and then, but I'm more of a, if you're Northern European, if you're Southern European, you'll have been exposed for far longer periods of time to things like goat and lamb and pork. If you're Northern European, you would have been exposed mainly to beef and pork, less to lamb and less to, unless you're in the British Isles. Yeah, the British Isles, if you're in like places like Scotland, parts of Ireland, parts of northern England, there's a bit more lamb in those sort of areas. It varies. So it depends which part of the world you're from. So there's all those sort of issues. How long have your ancestors been using? I prefer actually bone broths. I tend to basically, and I think some of the best bone broth is chicken bone broths. Really good. They really have a good level of hyaluronic acid, and especially for joints, they tend to have a much better profile. It's the reason why even the Jews used to call, the actual chicken broth as sort of like medicine. Its composition is really good in that regard. So I usually, even myself, most of my bone broth is basically chicken based. I really like chicken bone broths and stuff like that. I have a bit of other ruminant animals, and usually it's a mixed. I'll throw in bones from, beef bones, and sometimes even I'll mix them up, like chicken, beef, the whole lot, get a bit of everything. I put them in the deep fridge, and just lump them all together in a bag. When they get to a certain size, I throw them into a slow cooker and make up my bone broth. So that's how I sort of do it. And I enjoy that, And we've pretty much covered these from Sky. Oops. You're welcome, Sky. Yeah, drop me an email. I don't mind, having a bit of a one-on-one stuff like that. I'm easy, especially a fellow YouTuber that's don't mind supporting. We've got to help each other in that regard. So I take fish oil in the morning. regarding B12 supplementation, apparently it's recommended to improve methylation. Nope. If you've got a methylation issue, it's riboflavin that actually increases. Check my video. I've got a video on methylation on my channel. It explains the entire research. It's a randomized control clinical study, which actually shows a dose-dependent response. You only need folate and B12, what you get from the diet, eggs, meats and whatever, some organ meats and here and there. That's all. You do not need, just sort out Dave, you do not need, hey, Blinky, you've got a spanner, sort out Dave, don't let him hang. And what was I saying? So basically, no. The thing that upregulates in people that have got the MTHFR genetic, like me, to lower homocysteine is you basically need more riboflavin. I nowadays get 3 to 4 times the riboflavin of the RDI. And I can tell you, not an issue. As you can see, at 54, I'm getting more younger or looking much better, healthier than my skin used to look a decade ago. So let me put it this way. You want to improve methylation, up your riboflavin if you've got that genetic issue. If you don't need to worry. Don't listen to the bullshit out there. It's not based on science. It's based on what I call naturopathic, reductionism. And the other thing that they usually do is if people have a low methylation thing, you know what they put them on? Folate. Methylfolate. And you know what methylfolate does? It actually overuses B12 and so causes a deficiency long term. Oops. Rather than those idiots giving people, knowing the science and giving people more riboflavin, which is what is in dairy products and in animal meats, especially ruminant animals, which will basically correct that problem and there will be no problem. Yes. Yeah, look, I hear people constantly, I don't need to say this, Chris Master John, he's got some lady that turns up, I think she's a naturopath and she talks about, how she supplements all these poor idiots, a whole lot of, I shouldn't call them idiots, poor bastards, a whole lot of B9. I'm going, what the fuck? Anyway. Yes. You like a bit of beef, don't you, Blinky? Yes. That's right. You can go and come and go and come. It's a free world. It's a free stream. She'll be back, hopefully. You didn't scare off Blinky, did you? In the 1900s, when there were more sheep than cows, Harry, poor man's food. That's true, actually, you're right. In the British Isles, there were more sheep. That's actually what they forced from the Scottish Highlands all the way into northern England. They forced a lot of people off the land. That's how they forced them into industrial slums in the Industrial Revolution in the early days. Yes, the gentry, there was more value in wool from the sheep than in having peasants live on their land. Yes, that's true. That is true. That is true. Yes. I mean, we've all had, So I think lamb is a great alternative to cow. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd have to. And if you want a fattier form, go for mutton. Mutton is an older lamb. Or older sheep, to be more precise. Older sheep are called mutton for those who are unaware of that. So chicken feet are the go, Harry, for broth. Yep. Yes, yes. Actually, the Chinese love chicken feet. You know, they cook them all the time. Anybody gets like if you've got a Chinese grandmother, as an example, and you get a little cold, she'll be cooking up feet. Believe me, yep. Chicken feet, she'll be cooking it up for you. Yep, not a problem. You're welcome. We need more material. Oh, God. Are you going to come on and act as a Muppet? Can we get you to act as a Muppet, Blinky? We need a Muppet to fulfill that role. I'm at the bottom. And Sky said, I've made chicken feet before. Yes, yes. Good soups, actually, making from chicken broth. So, look, I enjoy them that way. And even combining them, as I said earlier, you can combine the stuff. It's, you know, from different bones, from different things, put it all together and create a sort of a different combo. When I did actually do that, I actually put some butter in when it sort of was simmering, when it was, you know, starting to, I turned it off and it was simmering and it wasn't too hot. And then I introduced some butter and melted in it and combined it. And sort of it gave it a bit of, I mean, there's another thing you can do when you've actually, let's say you warm up a broth and you want to combine it with eggs. It's one thing that I learned from my younger sister. It's something that they do on the Greek islands. They will take an egg, they will beat it, and then what they will do is they will put some of the actual, the fluids from the broth, once it's actually cooked, they will put, and they've taken it off the actual fire and the plate, you know, so, and it's simmering, they will take that and they will actually put it into and combine it and mix it into the egg and some of the actual, this warm fluids from the actual broth, and they will mix it and keep on mixing it, putting a bit more and putting a bit more and bring it to the same temperature, and then they will combine it and it becomes like it's an eggy, you know, sort of broth, so which is really nice as well in that regard. So there's a lot of different things you can play to put nutrient density in that sort of stuff and at the same time provide a lot of flavor. Put a bit of salt and pepper in there and yeah, beautiful. Bjorn, how are you, mate? Good to see you. Happy New Year to you as well. And Happy New Year to everyone as well. I should have said that right at the beginning. We got sidetracked with a whole lot of other things. So I did say my Happy New Year to everyone on the live stream in the early part of the day, covering most of North America, but I forgot to do it at this stage. Thank you, mate, for reminding me. Yeah, Happy New Year, guys. And thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Without you, this live stream doesn't work. T2, can you do that? Can you do what? He can do anything. He can do somersaults. You should see him. I typically either use chicken feet or chicken wings for broth. Good. Yeah, that's good, actually, because it's actually even better than some of the ruminants in terms of the sort of hyaluronic acids and stuff like that that are really good for joints. Because, you know, if you want to cover things like gut, joints, a whole lot of different things, chicken broths are sort of they're like a Swiss Army knife in a sense. So, yes. And they've been used in Chinese medicine for a very, very long time as well in that regard, chicken legs and stuff like that. So, yes, nothing like cooking up a dinosaur. Yes, a good idea to get back into it. Yeah, I actually do like. It's really nice. Sometimes you get up in the afternoon. You've had a meal at lunchtime, and you don't really feel like having. You're sort of like halfway there, and I'll go, oh yeah, bugger it. What I'll do is I'll just because I've got broths, and what I do is I put it into a container, I've got like a glass sort of and just with one of those screws on top, and I just put it in the fridge. And then when I want some, I just basically get a small kettle. I just fill it up with some of the bone broth, and then I just put the rest in the fridge. I warm it up, and then basically if I want to combine an egg, I do the trick that my sister did, mix it in, and there you go. I've got a little soup for the evening. Beautiful, you know. So it's something that you can just do on the fly. It's not very difficult, you know. So make quantity, as I always say to people, put it in the fridge, and then use it through the week. You know, just making little type of broth snacks now and then. Like in the Middle East, they have fat-tailed sheep or goats in Greece as well. We do have sheep. Goat isn't as fat. It depends. There are some goat varieties that have more fat than others. They do vary from region to region in that regard. And the ones in particular that are used more for eating will tend to have a bit more fatter. The ones that tend to be like if you're on the islands, they'll be slightly fatter. In the mountainous areas, like where my father comes from, they've got sheep, and they will more than likely eat more the sheep and use the goats for the milk. They will use some of the sheep as well for, but it's the type of animal that we usually slaughter is the older, like mutton. So rather than actually young sheep, it's the mutton. Rather than young goats, it's the old goats. You know, those are the ones that get slaughtered. They usually tend to have more fat accumulation over years, so they tend to be much softer meat and all that. So that's another reason where the ones that are more milk productive, because it has to, you know, the younger it is, it's going to have higher milk productivity. Simple as that, you know. And the other thing you knock off is most of the males, because you only need some males to impregnate the females. You don't need a lot in that regard. So that's another reason we do it. And I should know this stuff because I've actually helped my aunt when I was my aunt's passed away now, but when I was a young lad, I basically did help in that regard, in basically moving just helping her move all the goats around and stuff like that. But she had better control over them. I just helped her, and sometimes I would go up and they would follow me, and basically she would come up and sort of signal me, and I would come forward and try and I'd grab one of the actual goats, the male one, and try and force it forward so I could actually hear her if it was further up, and I'd go up there and sort of knock it on the backside to sort of force it forward, and then once it heard my auntie whistle and pick it up, it took off, heading down to the property, and the other ones would follow. So anyway, the things that I've done is I got myself an Instapot for Christmas. Well, good for you. I'll be setting up my broth game. Well, that'll be good. I had to stock up on meat yesterday. I stopped opposite the vegan section, loading my cart, thinking any vegan walking would be horrified. Oh, that would have been funny. Yes. I actually I was in the aisle where there was these vegans. They must have been vegans because they were actually going for this sort of plant-based kibble, which was this junk. This was down at the Woolworths in Hobart. And they were sitting there, and I was close by, and I was looking at meats as well, and I just was making comments. My mate was there, and my mate was looking at me, and sort of, what the fuck, but I was, it wasn't for my mate, it was more for them just to, and you could see them, I could see a bit of a cringe, that cringe thing. So that was funny. I got my satisfaction. I know what you mean, Sky. I know what you mean. Yes, it's nothing like seeing them cringe. It's really so fucking funny. How weird can you be? They are, yes. The ones that are still in the religion of the Church of Anorexia Vegana are still basically, unfortunately, still suffering the brainwashing. Hopefully, those two young people. Actually, the funny thing is, a couple of years back, I'll tell you a story. Now that I remember, there was these two guys that I actually had met at City Organic, and they were basically definitely vegans. This was a couple of years back, and recently, it was probably last year. I'm trying to remember. It was around November or something like that. They were down in the meat section and they were trying to work out what sort of meat they should get. It was so bloody funny. You should have just the conversation between the young lady and the young man going back and forward. And I sort of stepped in and told them, I think these are better. That sort of, it's more processed. That may have this and all that. These are your better options, much healthier options in terms of animal foods and all that. And so they thanked me, and then they sort of went on their way. But they were completely, because they'd been really out of the eating meat game, that they were so confused they didn't really know which option to take. So it was really funny to see them years later. I mean, they still, had their sort of hippie dreadlocks and all that sort of stuff. They were young, we all did that sort of shit when we were young. So, but it was really funny. And I just stepped in and just helped them out. It was the proper thing to do. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just young kids. I mean, help them out, in that regard, because, at the end of the day, they are our future, and they need all the help they can get, especially in this current kibble culture that we live in. I ate a delicious leg of lamb for dinner yesterday. Norwegian lamb is amazing quality and a lot cheaper than beef here in Norway. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, look, I didn't know that. That's right. I mean, you guys are quite mountainous. That's right. You don't have really a lot of lowlands for, or open, like sort of like highlands, which are just flat highlands or stuff like that. You're very mountainous. So you're a bit like Greece. Greece is not 80% mountainous. It's only in the sort of the province of Macedonia and Thrace, which is in the north, that there are some areas which are quite low and flat. And in those areas, they have beef. And there's an island to the northwest of Athens, Evia, and that also has a lot of areas in between that are flat. So it's got mountain tops here and there, but in between those mountain tops, the island actually has all these flat areas which are suitable for cattle. So it depends. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, Norway is quite mountainous. It's a bit like also Iceland. I know that in Iceland they have a lot of sheep as well. And the sheep consume all that hardy, really tough, that hardy grass that you find in mountainous or in areas where there's not enough sunlight and all that, where it's colder, and it actually creates these really hardy plants which are really green, and they tend to be very high, producing very high both vitamin D and omega-3 in the actual lambs. So I usually get them here in Tasmania from Central Highlands, because they tend to be this sort of elevation. These hardier plants exist in that environment as well, which is really good for omega-3s and also for vitamin D. So very good sources in that regard in those lamb. Yes. Braised pig feet, also excellent. And ancient Chinese beauty therapy. Oh, there you go. I think that's in Greece as well. I think I remember some lady, some of the ladies in Greece that used to because we have a very strong pork culture as well. Like Mary Ruddock, remember when she talked about the pork consumption in Greece, which is quite high? And yeah, we do have some of those. We do actually do broths with pig legs as well. You know, the pig feets. Yeah, we do that as well. Yeah, I know that. The women tend to appreciate it from what I hear. Oh, well, there you go. I learned something. I didn't realize it was a secret that these women are all about. Oh, there you go. Yes, they keep it secret to themselves, don't they, the ladies? I think it comes close to the taste of lambs. For me, absolutely delicious. Yeah, that's true. I do like it myself. Actually, I like it more than tallow, and I like it more than goat fat. Lamb's fat, yeah, it is nice. Yeah, I sometimes actually cook it on its own. I know it's awful, but I do. You know, yes, I'm decadent. Good, T1. God, he's slow, isn't he, Sky? He's damn slow as buggery. You know, you can't get good help these days. Sorry, T1. I've got to take the piss out of someone. Have heard of soup number 5? Never. Is that what it's? Do you guys actually call it soup number 5? Is it pork based? That's for you. Only purines in meat, bad for us. A neighbour, a doctor, told him to stop eating meat to help reduce his gout. No, he should basically stop eating fructose that actually dysregulates the actual uric acid cycle. That's what actually causes gout. It's the damn fructose when you combine fats, animal products, and, I mean, the majority of the people who've got gout are on a sad diet. It's because they're combining and engaging the Randall cycle. Yes. Oh, it's just all reductionist nonsense. Exactly. I mean, people in the past have actually had, shitloads of that sort of stuff. Yes. It's crap. The other thing that actually lowers actual uric acid levels and modulates them is also sodium. So if you combine salted meat, perfect. As long as you keep the fructose away. Yes. Yes, yes. Thank you, Sky, for reminding them. Yes. It's always an issue with this crowd. They get too wound up in all my interesting conversations and they forget they hit the like button. God damn. You have a channel for that. You hear what Blinky said the Sky to you? You have a channel for that. God, he needs a spanking. He probably, he's probably thinking in those terms. Oh, I'd love a spanking. Oh, God. Yes, thank you. Yes, I keep on reminding him that I turn up for those likes. It makes me happy. It's my dopamine fix for the day. Soup made from bull penis and testicles. Yes, yes, an aphrodisiac. He's a bad boy, isn't he? We'll work out the payments later on, Sky. Yes, damn Blinky. Damn Blinky. I get ground lamb as cheap as £6 to £7 a kilo. Yes. It's probably about similar what we get here. I actually get it even cheaper because a mate of mine, he comes from a rural background, even though he's an accountant. He still runs his own farm in Brighton, in the north part of the Greater Hobart area, and he basically produces his own lambs, and we get one every year. We got some this year, and he always brings us organ meats, hearts, and kidneys, and all these sort of things, which is great. So yes, so we get that for free because nobody wants the organ meats. That's how funny it is. So when he actually slaughters to basically sell. He does it twice a year. And when he does, each time we get all the organ meats. I get so much. I don't buy organ meats anymore. I just get, my fridge is just full of organ meats. And I've just cut them up and I just cook them now and then, you know. So I'm really lucky in that regard. And so is Dad. You know, we're both really lucky because we sort of share them amongst ourselves. So we no longer buy organ meats because we get them for free. You know, just need to buy the animals and the rest comes for free because nobody else wants it. Yep, definitely keep the doctors in business. If you eat a species inappropriate diet, that will definitely happen. Oh, thanks, Phil. Don't tell them too much. Yes, I'm at the bottom again. Hey, you guys need to pick up your act. You're really slow tonight, and even in the morning one, you guys were really either I'm faster. New Year's resolution: be fast, outpace the actual the rest, the subs. Get to the bottom before spam the chat. My butcher gives me lots of free stuff. Yes, nurse. Now, what do you have to do for that? Do you realise that Blinky is already thinking, now, what does Nursey have to do to get those freebies? That's what's on his mind, you know. He's a sick, sick individual. Quick, trigger Harry rant. Stop bottoming out, Harry. Do I have to rant about something? Well, give me something to rant about. Give me something controversial that you guys really want to. You're bound to have heard something really controversial on the interwebs or things that people are saying that, you know, I will then rant like mad and you guys will at least learn something from my rants. Well, you'll get a bit of satisfaction from the rant as well. All vegans are right. You weren't expecting that now, were you? That's something Sky would do to you, just to throw you off completely. He's at the Greek salad nursey. Exactly. It is. You're spot on, Dom. And I stopped at Dominic. Bloody hell. We've had a bit of fun. That's true today. Yes. It was actually interesting some of the stuff that that some people are actually talking about out there when it comes to the keto diet. You know, we've still got this sort of the regurgitating the nonsense about ketosis and all that. It never stops. It never bloody stops. What's Sky asking? Harry, vegans on plant-based latest video are saying that no one should take the COVID vaccine because the COVID vaccine abuses animals in order to extend human life. Oh, God. They are crazies. On the one hand, they tell us we should vaccinate ourselves to hell, and then they change. Oh, let's kill off the humanity. That's what they're thinking. That's their misanthropic thinking coming out. The ultimate end stage veganism leads people to this really dark place, this evil dark place of misanthropy of the highest order, where these people basically think that people are the problem on this planet. We need less of them. We need to kill them off. You know, we are a scourge, a plague that needs to be killed. You know, this is how some of these people think. I would not be surprised that in future we will not see more, you know, sort of vegan terrorism, because eventually it's like all the other fanatics. Eventually they get to a stage where they get so angry that nobody's changing, nobody's adopting theirs, nobody's becoming better, and then they get this sort of hatred where they think, well, you know, if nobody's going to do the job, we'll do it ourselves. You know, that's the danger. You know, I think, you know, future terrorism from these characters is not beyond the possibility. live longer, therefore kill more animals. Exactly. That's the logic. I mean, one thing that I wouldn't do, to be quite clear, the two safest type vaccines is the Chinese one, because it's based on the traditional method of taking the actual virus or the proteins, deactivating them, and just giving them back to you to get a normal immune response, like you would if you got the actual virus itself. So that's basically similar to the flu vax, which is not an issue. Then the AstraZeneca uses a deactivated virus, which comes from a monkey, so it can't create any transcription, and they've added the protein, one of the proteins of COVID, and what it does is it generates that, and then it just circulates in the system, and then the body goes after it and actually creates the same immune response. Now, people will say, well, there have been some side effects and all that. Yes, to people that are basically, that have people that take EpiPens, whether they get the virus or they get the vaccine or whatever, they will have similar reactions because they react to foreign proteins really severely. It's just the way they are, These people, that's why they react to other things and end up with having to put an EpiPen, because, it's just they have a true problem outside the majority of the rest of us. But some of the others, there are some DNA ones, technology, and also the mRNA ones. Now, they can't actually, the mRNA ones can't alter your genes. That's not going to happen. DNA creates messenger RNA. It doesn't go the other way. So that's not going to happen. But they can create sometimes some type of autoimmune response in some people. Not in everyone, but in some people. And so I would say it's the one that I wouldn't play Russian roulette with. So I'd give the Pfizer one a miss and all that sort of stuff. And if you basically have to take something to get some of your freedom back, I would only look at the Chinese or the AstraZeneca. Obviously, the Chinese one is not going to be an option for most countries that people live in. So whatever's left is the AstraZeneca, which is closer to a more traditional vaccine, and it's based on something we've already got immunity to these sort of structures, and where we don't have a problem. It's the only people that may have reactivity, as I said, people who use EpiPens and stuff like that. But some of the other ones, which are the DNA ones and the mRNA ones, give definitely them a miss. They a new technology that's coming from the cancer research. They failed there, and now they're trying to get their money back by bringing them into this sort of realm, and they're too expensive, and they have potential negative effects for a lot of people. The end of the day, if you keep your vitamin D levels up and you keep the viral load from coming in by gargling, so if you get it, gargle, use gargling methods to gargle and sort of to reduce the viral load, and that will basically mean you'll just be fine. But sometimes some people are going to be in occupations or requiring to travel, and the bastards have made it quite clear that if you don't take the jab, you can't travel. And I want to travel, and so I may be forced, and the one that's least problematic is the Oxford AstraZeneca, and that's the one that I'll be taking if I have to. But that's my personal approach. What you do is your business in that regard. I think that it's probably not going to be a problem for most people. It'll only be a small minority in that regard. I'm not against vaccines. You know me. I've done plenty of vaccines, and I'm very supportive of vaccines. My issue with the current vaccines are they haven't gone through the vigorous testing that traditionally vaccines go through. Even the flu vax and everything else go through a very vigorous system, and they've been fast-tracked. And that's where I've got a problem that, unless you have to, you're in a high-risk group, I don't think we have to vaccinate everyone. The other thing is the young people probably don't need to at all, because they don't have much of a susceptibility, unless the young person has never had the MMR vaccine, because we know the mumps, there's a protein structure on the mumps. So if they've done the mumps, the MMR, which is then they will basically have a certain coating which is similar to the to other coronaviruses, and so they seem to have a sort of some protectiveness. I think that's the reason why we didn't see a pandemic like the 1912 or it rushing through the younger people. For that reason, I think they had some immunity because of the MMR. So I looked at the age profile, and I've looked at some of the research, which is really interesting when it comes to MMR. But yes, anyway, plant-based news, my favorite source of news. Exactly, mine as well, mate. I salivate at the veggie stuff, the veggie news. Yes. Is the MMR better than the traditional vaccine? Definitely not. Fucking you. Do not touch it. Do not. It's caused, the same technology has been used in some cancer sort of research and some others, and it does create in a number of people some autoimmune type responses and stuff like that. I don't know exactly how bad it is because we don't have enough information. I can only go on past usages of that method and say, give it a miss. But I don't know how much they've improved it for the current one. And since they are not providing publicly enough information, I can't put my hand on my heart and say, yeah, it's safe. I'd give it a miss, basically. Soy terrorism, yes. It's not beyond a joke, you know. These people are really hate humanity. So don't think it's a joke. I think that there is a strong possibility. And I have a video that I will be eventually getting on my library because I won't put it on YouTube. The last channel that put it on YouTube basically got removed from YouTube. I don't want to lose my channel. So I will have to do it on library and inform you guys. And it's about the DOD. I'm still investigating some of the academics to get some information on them. Because, you know, I don't go on just somebody puts something out and go, oh, yeah, sounds like, you know, a great story. No. And it's about biological stuff to be used to alter our the way we think and stuff like that. It's really scary stuff, you know, our belief systems and all that. It's really scary stuff. And these people are thinking of using and weaponizing this sort of stuff. This is DOD, you know, Department of Defense in the US, and some academic talking about how to use, yes, some crazies out there, you know. Yes, believe me. So it is worrying, very worrying, some of this sort of stuff, because the potential for misuse and why we need some to bring an international agreement on dual-use biological technology and limit some of its usages because it could be used inappropriately by different state actors and different potential non-state actors as well. Yes. Anyway, I've heard one use aborted fetus cells and one didn't. Yeah, I sort of heard that, but that's the least dangerous issue about these things. It's I mean, that may be on your religious reasons or whatever, some people, but it's really, it goes beyond that. And there are known side effects of some of this technology that has been used in other areas, and I don't think they've bypassed a lot of the traditional safety approaches, and that's why I'm lukewarm about all this sort of stuff. I will wait, and I'm glad the Australian government's holding off and letting everybody else be the guinea pig and holding off, and basically, you know, we'll see, you know, which really and what side effects and stuff like that, and which is the best option. So I think if you can hold off and if you're healthy, you know, yeah, we're not in a mad rush, believe me. But, you know, as I said, guys, keep your vitamin D levels up. That's the most protective thing you can do. Gargle. If you get any symptoms, gargle iodized salt. You know, that will keep the viral load down, give your immune system time to clear it out. So keep those things in mind. I'm still, ivermectin, I'm still trying to find access for you guys. I found some other stuff, but, you know, it's problematic because there are some countries that block the URLs, so you can't actually transact. And there's also some I don't know whether there's the banks or will not process from certain countries, or whether PayPal will not process from certain countries. It's a possibility. I don't know. So I'm trying to find other sources that can provide links, because ivermectin, you take it, it's a sort of for parasites and stuff like that, and it seems to work really fast. It can lower the viral load very fast, which is really important to give the immune system the ability to fight it. And you can basically, you take it the day 1, day 3, and then if you still have symptoms by the end of the week, you take it then day 6 and then day 8. That's it. Because there is a bit of bioaccumulation. You don't want to go beyond that. And it's maximum 12 milligrams. So just for a reminder, if you do get access to stick within that protocol, do not go beyond that protocol for safety reasons. Always remember, more isn't better necessarily, guys. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes. Nothing like one of the Bush family. Yes. Yes. Part of the Carlyle group of selling guns for hire. Yes, we know. Yes, those great humanitarians. You missed my Greek comment, Harry. Did I? What were you saying? That I backdoor goats. Is that the one that you were saying? Where was it? No, that was Bjorn. How far back is it? Bloody hell, Blinky. No, lots of meat. No, I can't see it. No, yeah. What bloody thing? Are you dreaming something? You having Greek nightmares? Oh, Blinky. How much have you drunk, Blinky? Are you drinking? They have not isolated the virus, so how can you test? No, they've actually isolated the virus. They've actually created that was ages ago. They've actually created these vaccines based on the proteins. Yeah, there's nothing there. The tests are problematic because it's just the way they're designed. They don't really work really well. It's simple as that. You get a lot of false positives and stuff like that. And then there are different tests. Some of them when that are looking at sort of immune response, and usually you get a immune response and then that drops off. And so by the time they test, they may get a negative, even though the person may have had it and didn't know and got an immunity to it. And only when you give them something will they get a reaction and know that they have an immunity. It's complicated stuff like that. If you're going to do testing, you really have to do it very early. And there are certain protocols that traditionally have been used. Problem is nobody's complying with anything. It's all over the show. And it's just terribly recorded as well. So there's so much confusion out there that, yeah. And it just adds to the confusion pretty much. But no, they did isolate it. They did create vaccines from those isolated protein compounds. So that's all fine. It's only the tests that are basically, if you're talking about the tests failing to identify the actual viral compounds and stuff like that, to identify those, the proteins and stuff like that, that's a different thing. That's a different thing altogether. I don't know enough about the testing. I know that Ivor Cummings has done a couple of things on them and stuff like that, but I haven't really looked into them. So I usually direct people, see what Ivor's talking about. He's done some really good stuff. I haven't really looked into the testing kits and their efficacy and how they work to really comment. So I know there's a lot of problems with them, so I just ignore the whole thing in that regard. You'll be skipping the vaccine. I'll take my chances. Yeah, fair enough. Everybody, that's, as I said, your body, how you approach and what you do is yours. But the reason why we've got low infant mortality nowadays, and we've got low levels and we've got people living longer, is because of vaccinations antibiotics, and sanitation. That's why. So when things are done properly and properly tested and assessed and all that, less of a problem. When things are rushed, that can be a problem. So that's why I'm holding off. I'm not necessarily anti-vax. I'm just basically cautious about things that haven't been tested sufficiently. That's a different thing altogether, you know. So most of these diseases like diphtheria, tuberculosis, all these sort of things, if you go on, polio and all that, they ravaged society. They killed and maimed millions. A few people that may be outliers on that U curve that may get side effects, like people that take EpiPens and stuff like that, those are a very small minority of people. Very few people get affected in a negative way. I've looked into the research. Even the guy that actually made a big fuss about the MMR and lied, he actually had his own vax on the side that he was trying to actually monetize. And then when that failed, because nobody wanted to have anything to do with him, and they actually proved that he was basically just talking shit. And then when we looked at research, like in Japan, they stopped in, I think it was Osaka, they actually stopped for 2 years any MMRs completely. They banned MMRs completely. And you know what? The autism rates kept on going up because they're only associated. They tend to manifest at a similar age that you get the vax, the MMR. That's all it is, an association, not causal. There are other drivers, which is dietary and lifestyle, that have basically been driving up a lot of these neurological issues and disease issues and all that. It's basically the modern diet, guys. We know. I mean, Japan had no macular degeneration until they introduced seed oils, and then their macular degeneration went up. So there you go, a strong statistical inference there. That's what we need to look. We need to be driven by the science and not by hysteria or speculation or whatever. There's a lot of guys out there, I know in our community and all that are making a big fuss about a lot of things and peddling a lot of nonsense and pseudoscience and just crap, absolute crap. And that's wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be basically looking and saying, look, this stuff hasn't been tested sufficiently. That's the problem with it. And it's being rushed, and we should be using the ones that are least problematic, and we should use them on some. And if we've got other options, let's hold off, and look at vitamin D, look at other things that we can actually do to shore up people. These are the sort of strategies. There are multiple strategies, but unfortunately we're not getting that because it's profit driven, and we end up with some. And this is what undermines some of these technologies, because they undermine them because, we don't trust these fuckers. That's the problem. And we need this sort of stuff to basically, protect us in a sense. But yeah, it's annoying. Yes, I need to travel as well. And that's the problem. Yes, we all want to travel, but airlines are going to be really bitchy about it. And they will say that if you don't take the jab, you won't travel. So I've accepted that I won't be traveling for a while, and I've accepted that I will wait and see how things go. And if things look okay, then I'll take the plunge. But I'm not in any hurry at the moment, let's put it that way. Yeah, nobody should be forced to take anything. As far as I'm concerned, you're a free human, and you should decide whether you do or don't. Governments should not basically be controlling our lives and what. Yeah, exactly. Well, if you don't take it, you won't get on the plane. The plane. Oh, look, there's going to be a lot of people doing it for a whole lot of different reasons. It won't be only there that they're scared about themselves. It may be about their families, about their elderly. Some people may be looking after their elderly. There's a lot of different reasons why people do things or don't do things or whatever. So I always say, yep, your choice, not my choice, your body, not my body. in that regard. The developer admitted to have been working a whole complete day on designing the mRNA vax. I don't know. Yeah, but whether it took, look, in order to actually, once you've got a protein, once you've got all that, in order to put it together, you can do it in one day. With some of the biological technology we've got now, we can do it. The whole thing is, it takes a whole lot of time to actually first select the protein that you're going to use, and which is useful and which isn't, which is potentially, so you have to go through all these proteins within the virus to see what is likely to mutate and what is not likely to mutate, what is stable. So you have to go through a very long period of time to work out what is stable. That means what protein coating is not going to mutate, and the others are likely to mutate, so we're going to ignore them. So you have to do that. That takes a time. Once you get to something that you actually, then you can actually, how do I incorporate it? Whether incorporated like the AstraZeneca one into another deactivated virus, or do I basically create something else which will go in and use the machinery of the cell to generate viruses, which are sort of deactivated. But that sort of can generate some sort of autoimmunity. Sometimes there are certain problems there. It's like the real virus that can actually also do that to certain people. So is it the best approach? Should it just be left in the bloodstream for the immune system to attack and create an autoimmunity without sort of putting it in the cells? Is that a smart thing? That's where, this has been used to go into cells and make changes, where it's been used in like the cancer research and all that. And that's where I have a problem with this sort of stuff, that I usually say to people, we've still got too many question marks, so no, I'll give that a miss. Pfizer can go and stick it up their ass. Yes, it's not so much, you have to do a lot. Even if you combine and actually generate the thing in one day, there's been a lot of days of actually identifying the different things to put together. So even if you put them together in one day, that's not the thing. The important thing, they don't do it just capriciously like that. There are days and days trying to work out which components they're going to put together. So even if they do it in one day, that's not, so don't think that they just ran into it and just decided to put certain things together willy-nilly. That's just, they wouldn't do that because it just wouldn't work. That would be idiotic. No, these guys went through the whole painstaking process of identifying which proteins, and then it may have taken them one day to combine it biologically. Just think of it. I'll give you an example what I mean. When you've got an egg and you put sperm in it to bake it, it only takes a couple of seconds. That's within one day, isn't it? So combining certain proteins together can just take a one day or less than a day. So, but you still have to go through the process of identifying all these different things before CRISPR can cut out a protein and add another, cut out a part of the DNA and add another part of the DNA in there very quickly. But first you have to identify what you're going to cut out. So you have to do the research to work out what, and then eventually what should go in there to correct that. But the actual thing, the initiation of doing that final step can be very fast. It's all the other research that can take days or months to work out the best, what to take and what not to take and how to take it out and stuff like that. Let's say the mechanics of doing it. The actual last event when you do it can be quite fast. So that's what they probably meant. So yeah, it's just you guys are unaware of some of the procedures that are used in biotechnology and stuff like that. And so it sort of sounds sort of strange, but that's what's actually the backstory, which they probably didn't tell you, because you know what the media is like. They like emotive stuff, so it's this emotive stuff. And yeah, it's just, yeah, they like basically emotive shit and never give you a backstory, That researcher may have said a whole lot of other things which were just cut out. I've been at the other end where I've actually been interviewed and I've had certain things put out of context, where what I said, and that's annoying. And I even remember I did a speech in Parliament. This was in Tasmania. I was invited by a group of politicians when I was president of the Greek community. And I actually made a speech, and there was media there and all that sort of stuff. And I can tell you the things that actually ended up actually on the news, what got cut out and all that. I looked at it and I'm going, okay, I sort of said that, but I didn't actually say it in that context or that way. And I'm going, that is annoying, but that's reporters for you. They have their own will to barrel, whatever, to make you motivate to get the emotional response. They want the clickbaiting, unfortunately. They're not interested in the business of good, honest reporting like traditional reporters used to be in the past. Anyway, even the ones that did work for Murdoch and all that weren't as bad, some of them. Some of them were bad, but some of them were willing to actually do a proper story with a bit of real, evidence. Nowadays, they're just basically scumbags. The amount of lies and bullshit they peddle and half-truths. It's all half-truths. There's always half-truths is much easier to sell. You don't give the whole story. You just give half-truths, and it's harder to contradict or argue against. It's just the way it is. Do you get vitamin D from tanning beds? I like to use it in winter time here in... Look, there are some issues with some tanning beds, but if you're actually in the tanning bed for a short amount of time, like 15 minutes, that's fine. For longer, could be an issue. We really have some very mixed evidence of the effects, because remember, the light you get from the sun is not only UVB, it's also UVA, which has sort of like a protective effect that, and sort of part of the spectrum, the near infrared spectrum, also has like a protective effect from some of the damaging effects of the UVB. So there's a whole lot of other things that are at play in terms of light signaling via melanopsin, so it's a bit more complicated. So once you get from natural light, it's much healthier. That's why I go to the tropics but and I've never used a tanning bed, to be honest. Never have used. I don't know enough about them, but I know that there are some that are better than others, and some that are basically I think there are some that are out there that are expensive, and I don't know whether all the companies use them, which have a more, they will actually have a better, a spectrum which is similar to the sun. I remember there was one that I remember seeing in an ad, and actually had a comment on the, the UV composition of the sun or something like that along those lines. So yeah, So you've got to do your research when it comes to these, and sort of the strength of them, and exactly the frequencies that are being used and stuff like that. Yeah, it's complicated, to say the least. And there is mixed research out there, unfortunately, because there's no money in it for anybody to research, which is the biggest problem. If not a problem, mate, we've all got busy lives and all that, family commitments, and it's just the way it is. Oh, is that what you meant? Missing my boomer, mate. Oh, how nice. Yes, he's still going. Bloody hell. Yeah, I know. Yes, me getting deleted without notification 6 times, and when I upload, I get angry. Messages, yeah, okay. Oh, look, it's crazy, the world we live in. Yeah, look, I think a lot of us have been having problems on the interwebs, on blog sites. I've been going on the blogs, putting stuff, and then getting stuff deleted, and I'm going, what? It's like, that just took me about 15 minutes to type up, or whatever, or 10 minutes or whatever. I'll tell you one thing that I do. I basically copy and paste into a now into a notepad and just leave it there. So if it comes out, then I'll basically go back and put it in. I've got like, yeah, it's bloody annoying when that happens. Yes. Look at the haters, exactly. But won't keep a good man down. No, Harry finished last night. It's Roy's turn this morning. You mean, yeah, well, your morning, my evening. Let's get that right and just clarified before we confuse T1 especially. It's easy to confuse. It pisses me off if I can't be man about it and discuss it. That's true. Yes. Yes. You should be eating your kibble and you should be basically re-wokified, and you should know your place and be under control and contained and restraint. Now, we can't have you overreacting. Yes, yes, yes. come to skies, mate. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yes, exactly. Man about it. Not on the internet. No, that's true. Yes. The funny thing is, I can tell you, most women absolutely detest soy boys, weak men. So I can tell you, I mean, I've known people that have dated feminists that basically, you know, the woke type, and have been pounded in bed. And I can tell you, they go back for it again and again, because it's the way the birds and the bees were meant to be, you know, in human species. You know, it's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean we should be disrespectful and all that. You know, respect is one thing. This woke stuff is not respect, it's disrespectful, you know, to people, to their freedom and to being themselves. As long as you're putting your opinion and you're not being disrespectful, you know, and if you're getting knocked down, that's wrong. Simple as that. And you should basically be angry about it, because I definitely am. Old man in a mousetrap was Jew hate speech, according to Jar. Oh, is it? Don't know about that. Yeah. Anyway. Yes. Was it now? I don't know. Never heard of the saying. Yes, I better ask some of my Jew friends to let me know. Backslider. You're a backslider, are you? So there you catch bankers. Greedy people. Fair enough. I can tell you there's plenty of greedy people in every single race and in every single country. Yes. Yes, they're a dime a dozen. Yes, they're all over the place. And they're all friends amongst themselves. You know, the Greek bankers who destroyed the Greek people, they were basically supported by the German bankers and the French bankers and all these other bankers. Yes. They basically screwed the Greek people to save their banking mates. Yes. So, as I say, when it comes to the financial elites, it doesn't matter what race they come from, they're all fucking the same. They are good mates and they want to be on the top, keeping every other peasant in the neo-feudal capitalism that they want to produce under control and eating kibble. Especially you, T1. Yeah, Blinky, you'll be on the kibble duty in no time. Unhealthy people should die. Natural selection. Keeping people alive with pharmaceuticals is against nature. Zverich accent. If you eat meat cooked, you're a slave. Does that work for you? I wouldn't actually go that way. Look, the reality is most of these people have been manipulated, tricked. Didn't voluntarily, basically. If somebody basically goes and takes drugs voluntarily, I can say, yep, that person, they've decided to accept the Darwin Award of stupidity and die out. But the majority of people out there have been tricked, manipulated, and lied to. And most of them basically are completely unaware of it. You guys, not too long ago, were in the same basic boat on the same pathway. You just got lucky. So did I. My luck was I survived a cardiovascular incident and was able to basically get back my health. And I'm a pretty smart bloke, as you guys know. But still, I bought the whole shit message, hook, line, and sinker, like the rest of you. So, no, I sort of disagree with that sentiment. Humans have been tricked and manipulated. And exactly, they should listen to people like me. And yes, try to educate people around too. Don't make much of an impact. Look, it's hard. I basically be less forceful. Hold back. Let your example be your billboard of health. And then some of your family friends or actual, your mum, your dad, whoever, your relatives, encourage them to try certain things. If they start incorporating a bit more animal foods, taking out the seed oils, the refined sugars and stuff like that, even if they were to change, let's say for an example, go from eating vegetable seed oils to something like coconut oil or even olive oil, which coconut oil is better, or palm oil, or basically, avocado oil, which has got a high smoke point. Even if they'll shift to some of this sort of stuff, their health would improve substantially. And once they saw this effect, they can go, oh, because that's a small step to take. And then they may be open to other suggestions. So you've got to remember that they've been brainwashed. They don't see you as an expert. There's nutritionists and doctors out there peddling a different message. They are the experts. And so they've grown up to believe in the experts. They go to school. They believe in the experts, and it's very hard. So it's small steps, mate, small steps. And that's what I do with people, even my friends and all that, small steps. And they try things like my mates, go, oh, they heard about the Ruteri thing. And then they go, oh, we'll try it. We'll give it a try, Harry. It was one of my mates' views. He wasn't very confident. He said, oh, it'll be shit, but I'll try it once. Then he tried it. And it basically really improved his gut. He said, I've never felt this great. And, my poo and everything's improved. And he goes, oh, shit. Now it's more receptive to other things. That's how it works. It's small steps, guys. If we try and actually do it see, the vegans blackmail people. They use emotion. Emotion works. That's what the media does. The media use emotion, not logic. And so they will use emotion to basically, appeal to authority. And they will use emotion, appeal to authority and emotion, in terms of, oh, you're killing this little critter or this or that or whatever. And so, what happens is, yes, I heard that one about the palm oil. I do have a solution for you in that regard. I actually go to City Organic, which is a bunch of veg tardets down there, and they actually sell palm oil, and I'll tell you a bit about it. So anyway, let's move on. The horse to water. You can't make it drink, that's true. But it may take a lick once and then take another lick twice. So sometimes people have to go have a crisis like I had or others to make a big move. But then others can small steps and eventually get somewhere. So we're all different as humans. And we sometimes have to be, how can I put it? We're fighting a big machine out there, propaganda machine. So we have to be a bit more tactful and not forceful. Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that can actually have an effect on their whole family because they see it and they go, oh, and have profound effect on the way they think and all that. Yes. What's the deal with all these pictures from China with people falling over dead on the street early in the pandemic propaganda? I've actually heard about it and all that sort of stuff. In the early stages, when the disease was out and about in those regards, a lot of the people weren't aware that there was a disease. You know, a lot of Chinese people just did not believe it. So I know it's hard to believe, but that's what their views were. So a lot of these people were getting respiratory type infection and then just dropping dead because they never went to the hospital. So the biggest problem in China is, even though it's supposedly a communist country, that's bullshit. It stopped being a long time ago. The only part is just the political leadership that's in power that still tells that to keep in power. But down deep, everything, most Chinese people need to put money aside for health, education, other things. A lot of it's user pays now in China. And most people, and the Chinese are the most biggest tight asses because that's how they've grown up with very little. And they've used traditional herbal medicine and stuff like that when they've had issues. They've never gone to an actual doctor. They've got their Chinese medicine that they go to, but that didn't really work. And so people got sicker and sicker and then dropped dead. So that's what was happening in that regard. You know, once people switched on that shit, this is real, they started going to hospitals and they were dropping dead in the hospitals rather than on the streets. So no, it's not propaganda, that sort of stuff. But at the time, nobody knew what it was. They just had no idea, you know. And some of these people were far more susceptible as well. You know, some people were far more susceptible in that regard. No, it's not propaganda. It's just basically, you know, if you let it go too long, some people will drop dead much faster. Some people go through this long period, and because they're suffering quite a bit, they will go to a doctor then because they're suffering. And the ones that actually have this more dramatic drop, and we've seen it, people that get to ICU very fast, and then within a very small amount of time, a couple of hours or a day or two, they're dead. It's just some people will get, for whatever reason, maybe it's a weak immune system or underlying issues of other sorts that weaken their immune system, and their body gets overwhelmed so rapidly, it just kills them very, very quickly. And we know that happens in ICUs with some people. So it's nothing, you know. It even happens with basically with the flu. Some people literally really get a severe case of the flu and die very quickly. It's just what happens, you know. So it's not bullshit. It's just that some will go that way, and that's what happened in those early days. So using the virus to fuck over Trump, nah, nothing to do with that. Nah, absolutely nothing to do with that. It's a legitimate virus which there are now multiple centers around the world that know what it is. Not as that. It's been used politically, both by China and by basically, for China, it's been used to basically clamp down on Hong Kong. You know, so there was an opportunity, they used it. In America, they used it to clamp down on Americans. Again, the Trump administration clamped down on Americans. It wasn't the Biden administration that went in power. It's the Trump administration that limited your freedoms and brought in some draconian rules, or not yours, but other people that are in that country. So just because they say things, they're all the same. You know, Biden and Trump are the same. They work for the same masters. And they're just putting on a show for the rest of the people. So, nah, you know, that's why I believe in direct democracy. I don't trust the bastards. Simple as that, mate. They're all fucking, you know, they're all part of the same elite. They're just the different parts of it. They fight amongst themselves, the elites. You know, they've got differences, you know. But at the end of the day, when the chips are down, they look after themselves. And Trump looked after his rich mates by giving them a big tax break, you know, so everything. What this on the tweet? Maybe Yes, suspicious, but not really when you understand a lot about these diseases, the way they play out, and many others, which are similar. Because even the flu is a coronavirus, so it's similar. So it will play out. Oh, yes, that was the old comment. And we are moving through. I need to catch up. Great British humour. Women need soy boys to do the cooking and help them put on makeup through. Exactly. Hey, then you need a little man like me to do the job. Thanks, Sky. Yes, you can use the sword voice for those duties. I don't mind. These steaks won't cook themselves. Hair fry, Sky. Oh, everybody's giving. Oh, God. I'm surprised you didn't say something a bit more rude, T1. Say you want a cyber to come here and sizzle your beef, Blinky. Oh, thanks, Sky, for that. He deserves that. He deserves that. Definitely. Oh, Blinky, you've been done. Oh, God. You've been owned, my lad. Blinky the soy boy. Oh, he's definitely struggling. Sky just owned him, made him her bitch. He'll crawl in and do her steaks. Despite increased prolactin levels in women, I still don't cry enough to be a soy boy. Yeah, you should see Blinky's prolactin levels. Yes. Yes. Oh, thanks for the laughs. Education people, complete opposite. Good luck. Yeah, exactly. Oops. Where was? Oh, I lost my spot. Thanks. Oh, the Pillar Authority. Yes. Nothing like a Pillar Authority. It's the vegan way. Very jelly after Christmas T1. Yes. Palm oil. Yes. Loonies believe the jungle destruction is someone special compared to rapeseed destroying cropping land and pushing the sunflower oil to replace palm oil in chocolate. Yes, exactly. Pretty much all monocrops of all sorts damage the environment. Simple as that. It's the only way to do it. You need to literally turn it into a desert, nearly, sterilize it, kill every weed with Roundup and many other nasty things, and then plant your kibble of all sorts of kibbles of plant-based stuff, and then basically get a good crop and a good profit. And that's how it works. It's been done for donkey's years in that way. So yes, it's the unfortunate reality that's help me do it. Yes. So true. Oops, that just shot it's all over the place. Yes. Well, the peddling difference to heart disease that anyway, erased from history in Australia too. Seed oil death, worst, exactly. Shit. For fuck's sake, Harry. StreamYard can really be annoying. Exactly, that's true. Yes. He definitely has. That's why he actually said to me, why don't you shave it off? He goes, and I was wondering, if he's got high prolactin levels, he must have high estrogen levels, which basically means that he's probably balding and all that sort of stuff. And probably has all the other, deleterious effects of high prolactin and estrogen. Yeah, probably. He'd be a perfect soy boy for you. We'll send him over. When are you going to read properly, Harry? Whenever I fucking like it. By the way, peddling a different message, and also, since you mentioned heart disease, has strophanthin been erased from history in Australia too? Everything gets erased in Australia. You should know that. In Australia, we basically erase history completely. The only thing is what the media says. The only thing is what the politicians say. The only thing is what the soy boys say. Everything else is not true. It's not history. You should know that. What do you say? Oh, he wants to be your soy boy. Oh, Blinky. I didn't know that you were like that. Inclined. Oops. Is that multiple times that message? Are you retracting it and putting it up there? Is that for me to click? Remember, it doesn't get retracted from StreamYard, so just remember that. If it's on there, it's on there. We're ahead. Well, they erased the facts. Australia is a young country from the national anthem. They'll erase anything. How Australia's relation with China these days? Heard you weren't very friendly. Nope. Things have gone to shit, basically, on the trade front and political front and everything else. It's gone to shit. Anyway, they don't like us anymore. They don't want to buy our kibble. Shocking. I like the New Zealanders. But we don't know what the New Zealanders have been offering. We'll have to ask Bart, what are you guys offering? Yes. Those Kiwis, they've probably told them that there's this magic, Kiwi magic, and we can give it to you. And, the Chinese having some of these superstitions, they're probably going, we wonder what that is. And so they're hooked on Kiwi magic. Our politicians are just, they're in the. That means the crap out of them after they had rolling blackouts after banning Australian coal. Exactly. Yep, exactly. And they will come back. They will come back and buy our coal because they need it. Basically, simple as that. Their requirements are much greater than their capacity to produce their own. And the quality of their own isn't good enough. They have to mix it in order to get better productivity out of their coal-fired power stations. Oh, you want to be my Muppet? Oh, great. See, I just push it back to you, Blinky. Blinky's going to be my Muppet, won't you, Blinky? Yeah, exactly. Damn backstabbing Kiwis. I should actually send barter messages and just say he's a backstabbing Kiwi, allying themselves to the Chinese against the Aussies. The quality of their coal is about the quality of their goods. There's a bit of truth in that. It is getting better. They are moving up the technological, but the old stuff was a bit, but it was cheap, and we loved it for a while. Yes. Bloody hell, guys! We've had a bit of a pace today. It's over. It's 3 hours and 9 minutes. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here because we still need to maintain the level to a certain level. So, with StreamYard, I've got to maintain the hours. So I've got through the month, unfortunately. Thanks, guys, for being here. I really enjoyed it. We had a bit of fun tonight. It was all over the place, and we had an opportunity to, be a bit mischievous, thanks, Sky, for being here. Appreciate it, and thanks for winding up some of these characters. Did a good job. Yes, and everybody hit the like on your way out. Exactly. Otherwise, I'll get Sky to give you a boot. It's blinking. Find out where you live. God, he's a soy boy. He's not going to do much. It's not much of a threat. You're welcome, nurse. Also, Bjorn is a Viking. Sky, you need to get a Viking to do the job. Blinky, yeah, he's just not good enough for that. You out, Sky. God. You're welcome, Angela, and Happy New Year to you as well. Well, not sure yet. Maybe when the turnip is up. You're welcome, Cynthia. Good to see you here. Let's concentrate on releasing videos for now. Yeah, like all of us, trying to get some content out. I try, because most of my content, as you know, is all health related and all that. I try and get as much humor in my live streams as possible, because it's just, look, I enjoy it as well. It allows me to, yes, I know the old cliche, Blinky's probably already thinking about it in his head, drop my hair and all that. It's not long enough. He's going to say something, and you know what I mean. Yes. But yes, you gotta. Thanks, Dom. And get you glasses, for fuck's sake, Harry. No fucking way, Blinky. These are stylish. You need to upgrade your style, mate. You're behind the times. I believe StreamYard ignores the fact that I've deleted a comment and runs with it. Exactly. Look, what happens is, in the past it actually worked much better, but YouTube have changed a number of things and they don't link properly. And yeah, there's been a lot of issues in the way it actually works. And unfortunately, yes. And yeah, I like your glasses. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Nurse Trouble. Improve your attitude, soy boy. Anyway, guys, see yous. Good night, good day, wherever you are on this planet, this rotating planet of ours. Take care, and I will see most of you guys next week. The glasses are practical. Bloody hell they are. Practical is always good. Another sucking nurse. Oh, God. Bad boy. You're a bad boy, soy boy. Thanks, mate. You too. Glasses are sexy. Exactly. That's what I say. I'm going with that. Exactly. Anyway, see you guys. Don't forget on your way out, as Sky said, hit the like button. See yous.